If you like the story, you can support the author on Patreon. Link is in the description.
Chapter 41, Chapter 40. Thor was completely shocked when he heard this, as if struck by lightning. After Fang Mo's reminder, many previously incomprehensible things now made sense. For instance, the reason why his father, the king, was so furious and stripped him of his divine power after he trespassed into Jotunheim. It might not have been solely due to the grudges and wars between the Frost Giants and Asgard, but also because Loki could have discovered his true identity. The psychological impact Loki would suffer after learning all of this was unimaginable to Thor. No wonder Loki manipulated the destroyer to cause trouble for him. No, I have to go back and talk to him. Thor became anxious at the thought and didn't wait for the Asgardian warriors. He shouted, looking up, Heimdall! Take me back! However, after waiting for a while, there was no movement in the sky. Heimdall! Sif also looked puzzled, furrowing her brows. Why is there no movement? Let's wait a little longer, reassured Fang Mo, who knew the reason for the current situation. Loki had probably already begun executing his plan to deceive Laufey, the king of the Frost Giants, into invading Asgard. Loki would catch him off guard, kill him, and subsequently destroy Jotunheim. To successfully implement his plan, Loki would first need to deal with Heimdall, the Guardian. Heimdall was likely frozen in the icy power of the ancient winter coffin. However, Heimdall's strength was formidable, and it wouldn't be long before he broke free. While they waited, a vehicle approached from a distance with the Asgardian warriors and Jane Foster. Thor explained the urgent situation to them, being cautious about revealing Loki's true identity as a frost giant. He only mentioned that Loki planned to destroy Jotunheim, and he needed to go back to stop him. Meanwhile, Heimdall heard Thor's call. He broke free from the ice and defeated the frost giant who had been guarding him. With his injured body, Heimdall walked into the teleportation chamber and activated the Bifrost Bridge by inserting his sword into the mechanism. As the Bifrost Bridge activated, Thor noticed the change in the clouds above and quickly bid farewell to Jane Foster. A colorful light descended from the sky, and Fang Mo joined them as they all disappeared from the spot. In the teleportation chamber, Thor immediately noticed Heimdall sitting on the ground, visibly injured. He instructed his friends to take him for treatment and prepared to fly to the throne. However, Heimdall spoke up, questioning why Fang Mo had come along too. Thor looked surprised, but with the urgency of the situation, he didn't have time to dwell on it. He simply said, Fang Mo is my friend. I'm going with him to find Loki. Without hesitation, Thor flew towards the throne, determined to confront his brother. Fang Mo remained silent and followed directly. Meanwhile, inside the palace of Asgard, the guards were already engaged in battle with the frost giants. King Laufey, the frost giant, had arrived in Odin's chambers, preparing to kill his opponent with pride. Suddenly, a laser beam shot towards him, causing severe injuries and sending him crashing to the ground. Finally, at this moment, Laufey understood Loki's plot. Loki had never intended to cooperate with him. His earlier words were merely a deceit to lure Laufey away from Jotunheim. The frost giants, powerful as they were easily influenced by the external environment. In Jotunheim, with the ancient winter casket in their possession, they could unleash 500% of their strength. But in the royal palace of Asgard, where it remained spring-like throughout the year, Laufey could only exert 10% of his power. Helplessly, he watched as his own son, Loki, raised Gungnir and mercilessly blasted him into pieces. Loki. Frigga, the queen, who stood nearby, unaware of Loki's scheme, struggled to rise from the ground and joyfully embraced her son. You saved your father. Mother, they will pay the price for this, Loki immediately responded. Before Frigga could say anything more, footsteps approached the door. Loki instinctively looked up and saw Thor and Fang Mo standing there, freezing in place. Thor. Frigga turned her head and was instantly overjoyed. She rushed over and embraced Thor tightly. I knew you would come back. I have missed you greatly, mother. Thor smiled at Frigga but then turned to Loki, his tone turning serious. But now, I want to have a serious conversation with my brother. Upon hearing this, Loki became visibly panicked. However, his mind was currently occupied with his unraveling plan, and he failed to notice Thor's concern and sincerity written on his face. Indeed, in the original story, Thor was unaware of Loki's reasons for turning evil. He only knew that Loki had sent the destroyer to kill him, so he returned to Asgard consumed by anger. Upon his arrival, he confronted Loki directly, and the conflict escalated, leading to the destruction of the Bifrost. But now, things were different. Thor's perspective had shifted after learning the truth. The problem was, Loki was unaware of any of this. He was truly panicking now. Freezing Heimdall and the others was his attempt to prevent their return, but now, not only had Thor regained his godly powers, but Fang Mo stood beside him as well. Loki had witnessed Fang Mo easily defeat the destroyer, which was made with Uru metal. It shattered like a watermelon in Fang Mo's hands. Loki doubted his own ability to match Uru's toughness. Loki, I. Thor took a step forward, seemingly about to address Loki. However, to everyone's surprise, Loki made the first move. He suddenly aimed Gungnir at Thor. Caught off guard, Thor was sent flying by the attack, crashing through the outer wall of the palace and plummeting down. Loki! Thor! Queen Frigga was also stunned and quickly shouted. Mother, I'm sorry, but the frost giants must pay. Loki raised his head and said to Frigga. He then waved his hand, and the ancient winter casket appeared, instantly releasing a chilling cold air towards Fang Mo. Loki seemed to realize he couldn't match Fang Mo's power and intended to freeze him to buy some time. However, to Loki's surprise, Fang Mo's figure instantly transformed into purple light and vanished. The cold air struck the chamber wall, leaving it covered in a thick layer of ice. What? Loki was stunned by the sight. But in the next moment, he felt a cold blade pressing against his neck. Startled, Loki raised his hands, and with a loud clank, both the ancient winter casket and Gungnir fell to the ground. Witnessing this scene, Fang Mo couldn't help but feel the urge to comment. But before he could say anything, an electronic prompt sounded in his mind. System prompt, new module features detected. Researching them will grant you download permissions. Chapter 42, Chapter 41. Startled by the system prompt, Fang Mo was uncertain about which new module the system had detected. He wondered whether it was the one that had previously unlocked 80% or an entirely different module. Nonetheless, he knew it must be connected to the two items lying on the ground. Subconsciously, Fang Mo cast a glance downward. In that brief moment, Loki swiftly conjured an illusion and slipped away without uttering a word. Frigga observed the entire scene but chose to feign ignorance, maintaining a panicked expression on her face. After all, Loki was the child she had raised, and as a mother, she desired to shield him from any harm. However, Fang Mo paid no attention to Loki's departure, understanding that it was a matter for Thor's family to resolve. His focus remained on studying the module the system detected. With that, Fang Mo planted the hellish cleaver into the ground beside him, then bent down to pick up the two artifacts, examining them closely. Frigga, feeling somewhat perplexed, watched as Loki's illusion stood with raised hands while Fang Mo paid it no mind but instead focused intently on studying the ancient winter casket and the Gungnir. Was he excessively confident in his own abilities? Or perhaps he possessed the ability to see through Loki's illusions, much like herself? After a moment of contemplation, Frigga couldn't resist asking, "Who are you?" "I am Thor's friend," Fang Mo replied, studying the artifacts in his hands. He smiled kindly at Asgard's queen and reassured her, "Do not worry. I harbor no ill intentions towards Asgard. I am simply intrigued by these artifacts, and once I have studied them, I will return them to you." As they conversed, the system prompt resounded once more. System prompt, you have mastered the extreme cold attribute of the ancient winter casket. You have obtained 25% new module download permissions. Upon hearing the prompt, Fang Mo's face became happy but annoyed. He felt glad unlocking new modules that held the potential to trigger multiple possibilities. However, he grappled with conflict as he remained clueless about which module the destroyer had triggered or how to locate the remaining 20% of the new module. If only I knew the name of the module, Fang Mo sighed, uncertain how to interact with it to unlock its full potential. The current module granted 25% new module download permissions through its extreme cold attribute, leaving the user to guess its true identity. How on earth was one supposed to figure that out? Forget it. I shall act more impulsively in the future and touch whatever catches my eye, Fang Mo declared, taking a deep breath. He then returned the ancient winter casket and the Gungnir to Frigga, stating, "I have finished studying them. Here are your belongings." All right, Frigga hadn't expected Fang Mo to return the items. She appeared somewhat surprised but extended her hand to retrieve the two artifacts. Returning to Odin's side, she resumed her protective stance. Fang Mo glanced at Frigga. And, as if sensing something, she met his gaze simultaneously. To be honest, Fang Mo felt a deep empathy for Thor. Aside from Iron Man in Avengers Endgame, who was compelled by the plot to snap his fingers, Thor was perhaps the most memorable character in the entire Marvel movie series for Fang Mo. After all, he had endured unimaginable hardships. First, his mother was killed by the Dark Elves, and not long after, his father passed away as well. Just when his sister finally appeared, she destroyed his beloved Mjolnir upon her arrival, and even gouged out one of his eyes. Eventually, his sister met her own demise. Even his brother Loki, with whom he had a tumultuous relationship, was strangled to death by Thanos in Avengers Infinity War. Then, after residing in Asgard for nearly a millennium, his home was destroyed, and half of the survivors were slaughtered by Thanos. Having withstood the scorching heat of millions of degrees and forging the Stormbreaker, a weapon befitting a god king, he failed to hit his target, and Thanos mocked him and succeeded in snapping his fingers, subsequently wiping half of the life in the entire universe. Consequently, Thor descended into a state of despair and became a mere shadow of his former self, an overweight and less formidable version known as Lebowski. In Avengers Endgame, a version of Thor who could have effortlessly defeated Thanos with all 6 Infinity Stones found himself on the brink of defeat against a Thanos stripped of any stones. Ultimately, it was Captain America who lifted Thor's hammer and, in what felt like a betrayal, aided him in the battle. Without this unexpected intervention, Thor might not have survived until the end. Then, Fang Mo learned that Thor's ex-girlfriend in Thor, Love and Thunder was battling advanced stage cancer. Seriously? How much more suffering could Thor endure? Even Fang Mo found it painful to witness. Couldn't the writers direct their torment towards someone else instead of relentlessly targeting a single individual? Deep in thought, Fang Mo addressed Frigga, well, goddess. I have something to ask you. What? Frigga looked at Fang Mo, her expression filled with confusion. Do you desire death? Fang Mo inquired directly. Frigga remained silent but regarded Fang Mo with an expression that implied he was being foolish. Ahem, okay, let me rephrase. Fang Mo realized the clumsiness of his question. He touched his forehead and said, actually, what I meant to ask was, do you know when or how you will meet your end? Thor's friend, I understand your intention. Upon hearing this, Frigga smiled faintly. I was raised by witches, and there are certain things I know. I assume you possess the ability, like the Sorcerer Supreme who guards Midgard, to foresee future events, correct? I know you do not fear death. Observing Frigga's perceptiveness, Fang Mo didn't beat around the bush and stated, but honestly, as a mother, isn't it too cruel to die in front of your own child? It is all part of fate. Frigga shook her head. The self-proclaimed ruler ordained by fate was beheaded by your son. Fang Mo shook his head. Fate cannot harm Thor, but you can. Upon hearing this, Frigga fell silent for a moment before speaking. You have witnessed the immense suffering that Thor will endure in the future, haven't you? In such matters, I suggest you witness it for yourself. Fang Mo said this and slowly rose, making his way towards the door. He had conveyed nearly everything he needed to say, and now it rested upon Frigga's own decision. However, as he passed by Frigga, he retrieved an enchanted golden apple and placed it beside her. What is this? Frigga looked at the golden apple with a tinge of confusion. She could sense its extraordinary nature. It was a rare item worthy of being safeguarded within the Asgard treasury. This is a gesture of goodwill from me. Fang Mo waved his hand and continued walking towards the door. Just as he reached the door, he suddenly turned his head, as if recalling something. Oh, by the way, could you point me the whereabouts of Asgard's treasury? You see, I would like to pay it a visit. Chapter 43, Chapter 42. The Asgard treasury is renowned for its stringent security measures, which include patrolling guards and a magically protected door that prevents ordinary people from gaining access. Inside the treasure vault, there is a formidable guardian known as the Destroyer, making it one of Asgard's most heavily fortified areas. However, Loki's mischievous actions have diverted the guards' attention to the battle with the Frost Giants. Loki sent the Destroyer to Earth, allowing Fang Mo to capture the Destroyer temporarily using a low-grade version of the Chibaku Tensei technique. Now, let's talk about the magically protected door. Just kidding. Can a Minecraft player be stopped by a door? When Fang Mo realized he couldn't open the door, he instructed Steve to dig a passage next to it. Equipped with a Silk Touch pickaxe, Fang Mo can remove and replace blocks without causing damage. He made a promise to Frigga not to destroy a single brick or tile in the treasury. Undoubtedly, Asgard is a paradise of mods for Fang Mo. As soon as he stepped into the treasure vault, his mind was bombarded with system prompts. System prompt: new mod features detected, granting research and download permissions. System prompt: new mod features detected, granting research and download permissions. System prompt: new mod features detected, granting research and download permissions. The incessant prompts echoed in Fang Mo's mind, urging him to take swift action. Observing this scene, Fang Mo abandoned all pretenses of politeness. After all, he had already obtained the admission ticket, so it was only fair for him to start exploring and experimenting. Let's see. Fang Mo leisurely strolled through the treasure vault, examining and picking up each treasure he encountered. Some items were replicas, like the prototype of the Infinity Gauntlet adorned with a few embedded gemstones. It was believed that even in his youth, Odin had contemplated gathering the Infinity Stones. Fang Mo speculated that when Odin acquired the Soul Stone, he understood the significance of love and peace through the sacrifice of his beloved, leading to his rebellion against Hela. As a result, Odin concealed the Tesseract on Earth, specifically in Norway. In any case, the treasure vault was a treasure trove of wonders. By touching various peculiar stones and bottles, Fang Mo unlocked approximately 75% of the mod permissions. Finally, when he reached out and touched the Eternal Flame, the eagerly awaited prompt resounded. System prompt: acquired the intense attribute of the Eternal Flame, you have obtained 25% of the download permissions for the new mod. System prompt: acquired the attributes Frigid, Intense, Storm, and Geomechanics, you have obtained the download permission for a new mod. System prompt: download of the Thermal Expansion mod initiated. Hey! Hearing the system's prompt, Fang Mo was taken aback. Thermal expansion? Are you sure? As a matter of fact, Fang Mo had encountered the Thermal Expansion mod before. He vaguely remembered it as a mod used for constructing machines, a so-called tech mod. However, Fang Mo had no interest in machine construction, so his knowledge in this area remained limited. All he knew was that a group of influential industrialists jokingly referred to this mod as a preschool tech tool mod. Fang Mo could never have imagined that in a place as magical as Asgard, he would encounter 4 artifacts in succession, only to end up with a module focused on technology. He would have even settled for a module centered around plant magic. Well, at least I can get a lucky block out of it. Taking a deep breath, Fang Mo resolved not to let this discarded module dampen his spirits. There are so many incredible things here. I'll just touch a few more. Even if I end up with just a lucky block, it'll still be worth it. With that determination in mind, Fang Mo continued to explore the other items in the treasury. After touching various peculiar objects, Fang Mo successfully unlocked another module. System prompt: you have mastered the attributes of Bloody Mary, Nature's Blessing, Thunderclap, Fiery Flames, Holy Shield, Devil's Power, and more. You have obtained download permission for a new module. System prompt: download of the Tinker's Construct expansion module has begun. Upon hearing this system prompt, Fang Mo finally breathed a sigh of relief. Compared to the perplexing tech-oriented module, at least he could understand the Tinker's Construct expansion module. After all, the Tinker's Construct guide had provided clear explanations for everything. As long as there was a comprehensive tutorial, Fang Mo could follow along, even if he wasn't particularly interested in crafting. With the Tinker's Construct expansion module unlocked, Fang Mo had essentially concluded his exploration of the treasure vault. There wasn't much left to discover here, after all. However, just as Fang Mo was about to leave, something suddenly crossed his mind. Wait a minute. Instinctively, Fang Mo looked down at the ground, recalling the scene from Thor, Ragnarok where Hela shattered the ground. There seems to be something down there, right? With that thought in mind, Fang Mo's attention shifted, and Steve produced a pickaxe, commencing the excavation. Before long, they had dug a 1-meter square hole, and Fang Mo leaped into it. It must be said that this underground space was much larger than the treasure vault above, evoking the feeling of a tomb or some similar structure, whether constructed by Odin or Hela. At its center, an abundance of Asgardian warriors' bones lay in silence, as if awaiting resurrection someday. Not far away, a colossal stone coffin housed the motionless form of Fenrir, a gigantic wolf towering like a two-story building, its empty eye sockets signifying its lifeless state. Fang Mo's gaze immediately fell upon the colossal wolf. It was unmistakably Fenrir, the wolf of Norse mythology. Without hesitation, he approached Fenrir and reached out to touch it, hoping to trigger a new module. Although Fenrir appeared intimidating, it was still a wolf at its core, and to Fang Mo's surprise, the sensation of touching it wasn't unpleasant. However, much to his disappointment, there didn't appear to be a new module associated with Fenrir. Unwilling to give up, Fang Mo turned his attention to the bodies of the Asgardian soldiers. Yet, despite his attempts to touch these corpses, he gained nothing. Just as Fang Mo was about to abandon his efforts, he inadvertently made contact with the weapons carried by these soldiers, and in the next instant, a system prompt resounded. System prompt: you have studied the structure of the Asgardian spear. You have obtained 12% of the download permissions for a new module. Chapter 44, Chapter 43. Fang Mo's attention was immediately captured by the prompt, prompting him to glance downward with curiosity. Among the fallen Asgard soldiers, one corpse stood out from the rest. While the others wielded long swords, this particular soldier grasped a spear. Although Fang Mo had previously attempted to interact with the long swords, no new modules were activated as a result. After contemplating for a moment, Fang Mo commenced his examination of the various Asgard soldier corpses. It didn't take him long to stumble upon a soldier clutching a battle axe. Eager to verify his hypothesis, Fang Mo reached down and touched the weapon. In an instant, an electronic sound resonated through his ears. System prompt: the structure of the Asgard battle axe has been analyzed, granting you 12% new module download permissions. Fang Mo's realization struck him upon hearing the electronic prompt. He proceeded to search among the fallen soldiers, carefully touching any unfamiliar weapons he encountered. Soon enough, the system's voice echoed once more. System prompt: the structures of battle axe, spear, dagger, short scimitar, broad-bladed sword, etc. have been analyzed, granting you new module download permissions. System prompt: Tinker's Construct Weapon Add-on Module download initiated. With the successful acquisition of the new module, Fang Mo left the underground space feeling contented. It must be acknowledged that Steve's ability proved incredibly convenient. With meticulous precision, he had collected and rearranged the excavated blocks, leaving behind no traces of their disturbance. As Fang Mo departed from Asgard's treasury, the tumult caused by the frost giants had subsided. After all, this was the Asgardian stronghold, where the cunning frost giants stood no chance against the overwhelming might of the Asgardian warriors. Seizing the opportunity presented by the conclusion of the battle, Fang Mo skillfully wielded the hellish sword, slaying 2 frost giants and simulating assistance. However, just as the last of the frost giants were vanquished and the Asgardian warriors breathed a collective sigh of relief, a chilling roar resounded from a distance. In an instant, a brilliant light bathed half of Asgard's sky, startling all who beheld it. Every gaze turned towards the source of the commotion. What they witnessed was the Bifrost Bridge's palace spinning rapidly. Ordinarily, the Bifrost Bridge would activate briefly, creating a space-time tunnel through which individuals could traverse to other planets via a luminous beam. However, if the Bifrost Bridge remained continuously activated, its immense energy beam would relentlessly pummel the surfaces of other planets. Over time, the overwhelming energy discharged by the Bifrost Bridge could penetrate planetary crusts and shatter their cores, thereby transforming the Bifrost Bridge into a cataclysmic weapon capable of obliterating entire worlds. In the original story, Loki had planned to use the Bifrost Bridge to destroy Jotunheim. The Bifrost Bridge operates by harnessing tremendous energy to create a space-time tunnel. Typically, it is opened momentarily for travel across the 9 realms, allowing individuals to reach other planets via a beam of light. However, if the Bifrost Bridge remains active, the powerful energy beam continues to bombard the surfaces of other planets. Over time, this energy can penetrate the planet's crust, causing its core to fragment and leading to its ultimate destruction. Thus, the Bifrost Bridge becomes a weapon of mass devastation capable of shattering entire planets. Loki was aware of this in the original story, so he used the Ancient Winter's casket to forcibly freeze the functioning Bifrost Bridge, keeping it activated with the intention of annihilating Jotunheim. But that was part of the original plot. Now, does Loki possess the Ancient Winter's casket at all? Fang Mo had just been studying that artifact a moment ago, even unlocking a thermal expansion module. So, how did Loki manage to keep the Bifrost Bridge active? These questions intrigued Fang Mo. With this in mind, he flew directly toward the Bifrost Bridge's location. Although the Ender Hand cannot control living entities, Fang Mo just uses his sword and mounted it to fly. Flying swiftly, he soon landed atop the Bifrost Bridge. The nearby teleportation gate spun frantically, emanating an eerie aura. From the apex of the teleportation gate, an astonishing energy beam shot into the void, undoubtedly leading to Jotunheim through the space-time tunnel. Meanwhile, Thor and Loki. At this moment, the two brothers engaged in a dramatic display of sibling conflict. While Loki clearly stood no chance against Thor, the latter seemed injured, clutching his lower back as he evaded Loki's thrusts with a small knife. "I never desired the throne." Gritting his teeth, Loki stabbed Thor, exclaiming, "I merely seek the same treatment as you." "This is foolish, Loki." As Thor stepped back, he said, "I know everything is my fault, little brother. Can't you?" "Who's your little brother?" Loki grew even more agitated upon hearing this. However, before he could finish his sentence, a sudden gust of wind blew, and a door-like blade soared toward him. Startled, Loki swiftly crouched down, protecting his head in a sorry state. The blade narrowly missed his scalp, colliding with the teleportation gate behind him. It struck something, resulting in a resounding bang and setting the object ablaze. Oh! Witnessing this scene, Fang Mo, who had just arrived, was momentarily stunned. Simultaneously, Thor turned his head and cast a glance at Fang Mo. "Cough, it's nothing." Deliberately coughing, Fang Mo changed the subject. "By the way, what's happening with you? Haven't you regained your divine powers? Can't you even defeat Loki? He ambushed me." Thor's mental acuity was lacking, and upon hearing Fang Mo's words, he was immediately misled. "Originally, I intended to reason with him, but he schemed to steal Heimdall's sword and activate the Bifrost Bridge. I got stabbed while trying to save Heimdall." "Did he stab your back?" Noticing Thor's grimace of pain and his grip on his lower back, Fang Mo couldn't resist making a sarcastic comment. "Do you think Loki is jealous of Jane Foster? Why else would he keep targeting your back?" "Hey!" Thor was taken aback by Fang Mo's words. However, in the next moment, there was a sudden jolt behind him, accompanied by more bursts of fire erupting from the teleportation area, indicating an overload or similar issue. Upon witnessing this, Thor realized he could no longer afford to waste time. His intention was to retrieve Heimdall's sword from the teleportation area, but Loki's interference had caused chaotic energy currents to fill the interior, rendering it inaccessible. After much hesitation, Thor made a firm decision and raised his mighty hammer, Mjolnir, high into the air. Yet, at that precise moment, someone grabbed his wrist. Confused, Thor turned his head to find Fang Mo restraining him. Recognizing the urgency of the situation, Thor attempted to explain to Fang Mo the need to destroy the Bifrost Bridge immediately. Before Thor could speak, Fang Mo interjected abruptly. "So, you want to destroy the Bifrost Bridge? But to be honest, your Mjolnir isn't suitable for such a task." With these words, Fang Mo smiled faintly, and Steve, wielding a pickaxe, appeared instantly behind him. "Step aside and let the professionals handle it." Chapter 45, Chapter 44. Loki, feeling nervous, anxiously interrupted their conversation, asking, "What are your plans?" Fang Mo completely ignored Loki and took control of Steve, directing him to start digging the Bifrost Bridge. Thor, lacking the psychic ability or magical training of Frigga, couldn't see Steve, but Loki could perceive his presence. As Loki witnessed the blocky monster swinging the pickaxe, causing cracks to appear on the Bifrost Bridge, he was momentarily stunned. Soon, he understood their intention to sacrifice the Bifrost Bridge, the connection between the 9 realms, in order to save Jotunheim from destruction. "Thor! Have you lost your mind? If he destroys the Bifrost Bridge, you will never see Jane again." Before Loki could finish speaking, a sudden crack resonated. Steve had already excavated a piece of the Bifrost Bridge, and as the shrinking block was absorbed into Steve's body, a voice echoed in Fang Mo's mind. "System prompt, you have researched the properties of the Bifrost Bridge. Permission granted to download a new module." System prompt, downloading the light bridge modules. "Hey!" Fang Mo was momentarily stunned upon hearing the voice. He had assumed that the Bifrost Bridge couldn't trigger any modules, yet it appeared that removing a block was necessary. Did this imply that he had to extract components from other objects to activate their respective modules? He had acted hastily, presuming that mere contact would suffice. Now he realized that extraction was required to activate the modules. With this realization in mind, Fang Mo decided to continue excavating throughout Asgard while Steve proceeded with digging the Bifrost Bridge. What kind of magic is this? Thor looked at the missing piece of the Bifrost Bridge in astonishment. As previously mentioned, Thor couldn't see Fang Mo's stand, so in his eyes, a section of the Bifrost Bridge just suddenly vanished on its own. That's why he was puzzled. Unlike the massive explosion in the original story, Steve's Silk Touch pickaxe didn't result in an explosion. In fact, as the bridge narrowed, the energy beam between the teleportation points weakened. Brother! How could you permit a mortal to destroy the Bifrost Bridge? Loki grew even more anxious witnessing this scene. If Jotunheim remained intact, his plan would be ruined. Moreover, when Odin awoke and discovered his actions, he would be infuriated. With this in mind, Loki impulsively withdrew a dagger from his pocket. But before Loki could make a move, Fang Mo simply gestured, and with a resounding bang, a large hole appeared in the teleportation area, and the hellish cleaver swiftly returned to his hand. Upon seeing the weapon capable of splitting the destroyer in half, Loki immediately backed down. Loki believed that Thor wouldn't kill him, but Fang Mo's intentions were uncertain. He didn't want to risk his life against the volatile temperament of this Midgardian. For Steve, the material of the Bifrost Bridge wasn't particularly tough, so it didn't take him long to break through it. With the energy supply depleted, the rotation of the teleportation area ceased, and the energy beam gradually weakened and disappeared. The crisis in Jotunheim was finally resolved. We did it, Fang Mo. Seeing the teleportation area come to a halt, Thor became ecstatic. Fantastic! We saved an entire race. Yes, yes. After hearing Thor's words, Fang Mo couldn't help but roll his eyes. It's because of your family's mess. The frost giants in Jotunheim didn't do anything wrong, yet they almost got exterminated because of you. Thor felt embarrassed by Fang Mo's remarks. It's not entirely our fault. Yeah, that's right. Fang Mo waved his hand dismissively. Anyway, you better go and pull out Heimdall's sword. Otherwise, I'm afraid it will go berserk again. All right. Without much thought, Thor turned and walked towards the teleportation. During this time, Fang Mo also turned his head to look at Loki. Loki felt a sense of imminent danger as Fang Mo stared at him. What are you planning to do? I'm wondering if I should throw you down from here, Fang Mo smiled slightly. I suggest you not do that. Loki, clearly nervous, quickly started speaking, after all, I'm the Prince of Asgard. If you do that, it would make you a great hero of Asgard, right? Fang Mo wasn't afraid of Loki at all. Considering the wicked things you've done as a prince, it's normal to throw you into a space rift as an exile. That's not an exile, it's murder. Loki immediately responded, any normal person knows that once you fall into that thing, you can't survive. Fang Mo remained silent, just staring quietly at Loki. In fact, he hadn't noticed this before when he was arguing with Nick Fury. However, now, seeing Loki, who should have fallen into the chaotic flow of space, still standing here unscathed, Fang Mo finally realized the power of the butterfly effect and his influence on the plot. Now, Fang Mo had two paths to choose from. The first path was to take advantage of the convenience provided by the plot and try to promote the occurrence of major events in the original story as much as possible, ensuring his foresight. For example, throwing Loki into the time rift and waiting for him to lead the alien invasion of Earth in the Avengers. Of course, there was also the second path, which was to act entirely according to his own will, directly changing those unfavorable plot points, helping those he liked along the way, and giving a good beating to those he disliked. This approach would definitely be satisfying, but the downside was that he would lose the ability to foresee the future. Both paths had their pros and cons, and Fang Mo hesitated for a moment about which one to choose. Well, Seeing Fang Mo deep in thought, Loki was genuinely worried. Odin was still asleep, and Thor and their mother couldn't stop this monster. So he quickly asked, you don't really want to throw me down, do you? What do you think? Fang Mo glanced at Loki and asked in return. Are you serious? Loki was surprised and then couldn't help but ask, do we have any grudges between us? Even if I wanted to destroy Jotunheim, it shouldn't have anything to do with you as a Midgardian, right? But throwing you down would benefit me. Interrupted by Loki, Fang Mo stopped thinking about these things and simply smiled at him. However, considering that you're Thor's brother and not deserving of death, I'll give you one last chance. What chance? Loki eagerly tried to seize this lifeline. I'll give you 3 minutes. Fang Mo slowly extended 3 fingers. Give me a reason not to throw you down. If I find it reasonable, I'll pretend nothing happened. Chapter 46, Chapter 45. If your answer please me, I will pretend nothing happened, Fang Mo stated bluntly. But if you fail to satisfy me, no one can save you today. I'll kick you straight into the space turbulence, Fang Mo warned. In front of Thor. Loki couldn't help but interject. He won't just stand by and watch me die. Do you have a small knife? Fang Mo suddenly inquired. Give me one first, and I'll do you a favor. Hey! Loki was taken aback, momentarily unable to comprehend Fang Mo's intention. Don't dawdle. Fang Mo raised the hellish cleaver in his hand and urged, hurry up. Witnessing this, Loki swiftly complied and retrieved a dagger from his pocket. To his surprise, after Fang Mo took the dagger, he immediately plunged it into his own chest without uttering a word. Loki widened his eyes in shock. See that? This is my unique skill, killing myself. Fang Mo calmly maintained composure despite the dagger lodged in his chest. When Thor appears, I'll claim that you, Loki, ruthlessly attacked me, and in self-defense, I kicked you off the Bifrost Bridge. You. Loki grew increasingly anxious upon hearing this. He had to admit that the other party's plan was truly unscrupulous. Loki couldn't even determine which of them truly the god of mischief. All right, let the countdown begin. Fang Mo granted Loki no time to contemplate, promptly retrieving his phone to initiate the countdown. Okay, okay. Loki raised his hand in surrender, realizing he had no choice. If you spare me, you will gain the friendship of the Prince of Asgard. Is that acceptable? Fang Mo didn't bother to respond and simply regarded Loki with a caring yet mocking gaze. Well, let me rephrase it then. Since his trickery had failed, Loki swiftly changed his approach. I know many secret passages in Asgard. If you release me, I will disclose the locations of these passages. You can freely navigate Asgard, even without using the Bifrost Bridge. I am now friends with Thor and an ally of all Asgard, Fang Mo replied, questioning Loki's proposal. I came here to visit, not to engage in covert activities. Do I truly need to sneak into Asgard in such a manner? Then, Loki tentatively inquired, should I teach you magic? With your illusion magic. Fang Mo raised the dagger in his hand. Come on, ask this dagger in my hand if I need that. Besides illusion magic, I possess knowledge of other spells, Loki hastily explained. I've heard that you are also a sorcerer in Midgard, so it would be beneficial for you to learn magic from this realm. Look, the weapon in your hand, I mean, your sword. You've been holding it all this time, so I assume you don't possess containment spells, right? Containment spells? Fang Mo questioned, like a spatial ring or something. Spatial ring? Loki initially appeared perplexed but quickly nodded. Yes, it's similar to that kind of spell. Look. He spoke and swiftly removed his helmet, intending to demonstrate. Fang Mo observed as Loki stretched out his hands, causing the helmet to float in midair. Then, he brought his hands together, making the helmet vanish. Witnessing this, Fang Mo couldn't help but reminisce. Indeed, in the original story, Loki employed such spells. In Thor 1, he abruptly summoned the winter casket to attack Heimdall, and occasionally, he conjured a small knife from thin air. Among all these scenes, the most memorable for Fang Mo was when Loki handed the Tesseract to Thanos. Initially, his hands were empty, but he reached into the void, materializing the Tesseract. Doctor Strange seemed to possess a similar spell, concealing the Time Stone. Such a spell would prove immensely useful to Fang Mo. Unlike Steve, who had the alchemy bag, his own backpack, and an inventory, Fang Mo, even though digitized, lacked any storage. Consequently, certain materialized items couldn't be returned to Steve's backpack, causing occasional inconvenience. With these thoughts in mind, Fang Mo decided to give learning this spell a try. However, what he didn't anticipate was, before he could utter a word, a mysterious system prompt echoed in his mind. System prompt, new module feature detected. Research to obtain download permissions. Hey! Startled by the prompt, Fang Mo instinctively glanced at Loki before him. Of course, Loki couldn't hear the prompt. At this moment, he remained unaware of Fang Mo's interest in the spell. If Fang Mo lacked interest, he would truly be kicked off. Thus, Loki anxiously observed Fang Mo. "All right, you've passed." Fang Mo shrugged and cancelled the countdown on his phone. "When we return later, remember to teach me this spell." "No problem." Relieved to see Fang Mo nod, Loki finally let out a sigh of relief. Just then, Thor returned, holding Heimdall's sword with a perplexed expression. "Why did it take so long?" Fang Mo glanced at Thor and inquired deliberately. "Heimdall's sword was stuck. It took me some time to retrieve it." Thor scratched his head, his expression tinged with confusion. "Strange, this has never happened before with the energy conduit. Could the strange purple energy be a result of the overload damaging the conduit? Let's wait until Odin awakens to discuss this matter." Fang Mo patted Thor's shoulder. "After all, you're an Asgardian warrior, not a dwarf. Leave the repairs of the energy conduit to them." "All right." Thor nodded, then apologized to Fang Mo. However, repairing the Bifrost Bridge is a monumental task. "Fang Mo, I'm sorry, but you may not be able to return to Midgard temporarily." "Is it difficult to repair the Bifrost Bridge?" Fang Mo asked curiously. "No, the Bifrost Bridge is simply an activation device for a set of magical runes. Asgard's craftsmen can fix it within a few days," Thor explained. "The real challenge lies in repairing the Bifrost Bridge itself, that thing." "Oh, that's fine." Upon hearing this, Fang Mo waved his hand dismissively. "There's no need to repair that thing. If you don't believe me, watch." Fang Mo's clone, Steve, promptly retrieved the Bifrost Bridge cube and placed it back in its original position. Within seconds, the previously broken bridge restored to its former state. Once again, the bridge emanated a vibrant and colorful aura. Chapter 47, Chapter 46. Thor stood in awe as he beheld the fully restored Bifrost Bridge. His jaw dropped in astonishment. "No way, it's already fixed." Fang Mo shrugged casually. "This thing wasn't even broken in the first place." Thor's attention was seized by Fang Mo's gesture, and he suddenly noticed the dagger on his chest. He paused for a moment and inquired, "What's the story behind this? Did Loki?" The kid didn't know any better. "It's not a big deal," Fang Mo replied, removing the dagger from his chest and nonchalantly tossing it aside. "Things got a bit tense earlier, but after having a heart-to-heart talk with him, we're good friends now." "Really?" Thor regarded Loki skeptically. Loki quickly nodded. "Of course, brother. I feel an instant connection with Fang Mo. We've become close friends." "You're not playing tricks on me, are you?" Thor asked again, still harboring doubts. "How could I?" Loki raised his hands sincerely. "I've changed for the better. You have to trust your little brother." "All right," Thor relented, sensing something amiss but choosing not to dwell on it. "The Bifrost is temporarily out of order due to the damage caused. Loki, you've made such a mess while I was away. I need to report this to Father. Father is still asleep. I think we can find an alternative solution," Loki suggested, wearing an awkward yet polite smile. "Brother, what if we inform Mother about this? After all, Father, he's exhausted, and we shouldn't bother him." "Mother won't forgive you either," Thor retorted, rolling his eyes. "Do you think destroying Jotunheim is a minor issue?" "I'm just following your example," Loki mercilessly replied to his unfortunate brother. "Didn't you defeat them barehanded? What's with this newfound attitude? Have you forgotten your past bravery and glory?" Thor found himself at a loss for words. Yes, he had been like that before he was banished. After a prolonged silence, he finally spoke slowly, "Brother, I have changed." Loki smiled cunningly. "Oh, how convenient. So have I." While the two engaged in their argument, a large group of soldiers swiftly approached from the other side of the Bifrost Bridge, effectively encircling Thor and Loki. Loki seemed as if he wanted to say something, but before he could, a green light materialized. An illusion of Frigga manifested before them. Loki, who had just mentioned Frigga, fell silent immediately, assuming the demeanor of a guilty child. "Mother," Thor interjected, stepping forward in a crucial moment. "Everything has been resolved. Please rest assured." "Come to Odin's chamber," Frigga instructed, unable to say much in the presence of the guards. I have something to discuss with both of you. The subsequent events were rather straightforward, a case of misbehaving children receiving a lecture from their parents. However, Fang Mo couldn't be bothered with any of it. He directly greeted Frigga, who reciprocated by arranging accommodation for him with the Asgardian warriors. There was no other option. Although the Bifrost Bridge had not sustained damage this time, its teleportation function was temporarily unavailable. Thanks to the insane spinning speed and the impact from Fang Mo's cleaver, it was a miracle that it hadn't exploded. Repairing it would take a few days, necessitating Fang Mo to stay in Asgard temporarily. Staying in Asgard for a few days was indeed Fang Mo's intention. After all, this place could be described as a mod paradise. In just a short while, Fang Mo had already discovered 5 mods. It was truly astonishing. Since Loki and Thor hadn't directly destroyed the Bifrost Bridge this time, Odin didn't awaken prematurely to save his son or intervene in any way. It wasn't until the 3rd day that he appeared in the palace to address various matters and clean up the aftermath left by his 2 beloved sons. Furthermore, Odin also had a private meeting with Fang Mo. Perhaps it was due to Fang Mo's role in resolving the conflicts between Loki and Thor, as well as presenting Frigga with an enchanted golden apple. Regardless, Odin's attitude towards Fang Mo had become rather courteous. As for Fang Mo, he also expressed his own requests to Odin. Specifically, he desired the freedom to explore and investigate the palace. After all, he had paid the entrance fee and had no intention of causing any damage. Odin likely believed that Fang Mo, being a Midgardian sorcerer, might have an interest in the unknown, so he granted permission. Over the course of these few days, Fang Mo successfully unlocked 2 mods. One was unlocked by encountering monsters in the wilderness forest of Asgard, a mod known as the Grimoire of Gaia. The other was unlocked during a drinking session with Thor and the Asgardian warriors, and it was the Pam's Harvest Craft add-on mod. Now, with regard to Loki, Fang Mo took the opportunity to visit the dungeon. After Loki had performed several storage spells for him, the system prompt finally sounded, unlocking a mod called Super Backpack. However, it's worth noting that this mod differed from the ones Fang Mo had previously unlocked. Typically, most mods introduce additional items to the game, such as the Industrial Age, which bring forth new processes, items, and gameplay mechanics. Yet, there are also a few lightweight mods that merely enhance certain functionalities of the game without introducing new items. The most typical example would be the mini-map mod. Similarly, mods like Player Highlight, Chain Link, Metamorph, Fast Leaf Decay, and JEI share a similar nature. They don't introduce new items, but they provide convenience for players. In the case of the Super Backpack mod that Fang Mo had just unlocked, it fell into this lightweight category. It didn't add new items to the game, instead, it introduced a setting that allowed Steve to increase his backpack capacity by consuming experience points. At most, it could expand Steve's backpack capacity by more than 10-fold, truly a remarkably convenient feature. However, for Fang Mo, it wasn't just this mod's functionality that surprised him. In fact, what truly astonished Fang Mo was, after loading this mod, an additional space inexplicably emerged within his mind. Chapter 48, Chapter 47. Fang Mo marveled as the space materialized in his mind, leaving him amazed. It was the first time he encountered a mod that directly influenced his own body, and it left him speechless. Upon further reflection, it started to make sense. His body had been digitized, so being able to load mods that affected him, like Steve, was probably a normal occurrence. Fang Mo even entertained the thought of future mods that could customize his appearance or abilities. Could he become a shapeshifter like Mystique? But that was a tale for another time. For now, what intrigued Fang Mo the most was the space that had manifested in his mind. Unlike Steve's classic game-style backpack with its small squares, this space resembled the storages described in novels. However, there was a problem. Fang Mo couldn't fathom how to store items in it. After departing from Loki's dungeon, he hurried back to his temporary residence in the palace. There, he picked up a candlestick from the bedside and attempted to place it in the storage space. But no matter how long he stared at it, the candlestick refused to enter. Confusion crept over Fang Mo. Could it be that my focus is lacking? He pondered, furrowing his brow. Drawing from his extensive knowledge of fantasy and cultivation novels, he recalled instances where characters concentrated their consciousness on an item, envisioning it being stored in a spatial container. With this in mind, Fang Mo cautiously pressed the candlestick against his forehead, intensifying his concentration. "Come on, go in quickly," he whispered. To his astonishment, his grip loosened, and the candlestick effortlessly slid halfway into his head. Oh! Fang Mo found himself in an awkward position. Cross-legged on the bed, he held the base of the candlestick with both hands, while the upper half disappeared into the center of his forehead, as if partaking in a peculiar magical act. Strangely, he felt no obstruction, as if the candlestick hadn't entered his head at all. "Does it work like this?" Fang Mo marveled at the peculiar sight. Despite the strangeness of the situation, Fang Mo remained unperturbed, considering his digitized body. In fact, he found it fascinating. "I can even fit something this large inside. My imagination truly knows no limits." With a bit of effort, he slid the entire candlestick into his head, and instantly, a mental image of the candlestick appeared in his consciousness. To retrieve it, all he had to do was touch his forehead. He swiftly grasped the handle, pulled, and the complete candlestick reappeared in his hand. With great excitement, Fang Mo eagerly toyed with this newfound ability as if he had stumbled upon something extraordinary. Soon, he comprehended the underlying principle. First and foremost, accessing the storage space didn't require touching his forehead. Fang Mo discovered that whenever something made contact with his body and he desired to store it, it would automatically be transferred to the storage space. Furthermore, he realized that he could retrieve items from any part of his body, be it the palm, chest, back, crotch, or anywhere else. There was no need to always insert them through his forehead, which would seem rather foolish. The storage space, while not extensive, measured about 2 square meters, proving to be sufficient for Fang Mo's needs. After dedicating some time to organizing his belongings and stowing them in the storage space, Fang Mo shifted his focus to his primary task, opening the lucky cubes. For Fang Mo, Asgard proved to be a truly fortuitous place. After all, it offered him numerous mods. In the treasury alone, he unlocked thermal expansion, 2 Tinker's Construct add-ons from the underground tomb, light bridge from digging the Bifrost Bridge, grimoire of Gaia from the forest, Pam's Harvest Craft add-on beverages accidentally triggered at the banquet, and the extra-large backpack given by Loki. In just a few days, Fang Mo had unlocked a total of 7 mods in Asgard. Though some mods, like thermal expansion and add-on beverages, eluded Fang Mo's comprehension, they still provided him with lucky cubes. After patiently waiting for a few days, most of these mods had finished downloading. Now, Steve's backpack contained 7 lucky cubes. Considering his previous mishap when unlocking the Tinker's Construct Taiga add-on alloy mod on Earth and inadvertently revealing a worthless ore magnet in front of Nick Fury, Fang Mo felt the need to exercise caution this time. Following that decision, he took a refreshing bath, lit some incense, changed into new clothes from Asgard, and meticulously surveyed his surroundings once again to ensure no suspicious individuals were lurking. With everything in order, Fang Mo instructed Steve to retrieve the lucky cubes. 7 consecutive draws, how luxurious, Fang Mo murmured, his excitement mounting as he beheld the 7 lucky cubes in Steve's inventory. Even if his luck wasn't exceptional, this streak of 7 draws should yield some form of guaranteed reward, just like in most gacha games, right? With that thought in mind, Fang Mo took a deep breath. He directly commanded Steve to open the first lucky cube. In the next instant, a radiant light erupted, and a black-purple ring materialized in Steve's hand. "What the fuck?" Fang Mo exclaimed in disbelief. Chapter 49, Chapter 48. Damn! Fang Mo's excitement surged as he caught sight of the black and purple ring in Steve's hand. It was none other than the legendary Void Ring, a prized artifact within the equivalent exchange mod. Forged through the combination of a black hole band, the gem of eternal density, and 2 red matter, this extraordinary item transcended the powers of its individual components. In the realm of the game, the black hole band possessed the ability to absorb a wide range of drops, while its right-click function could obliterate any fluid in an instant. Meanwhile, the gem of eternal density enabled the conversion and compression of items carried by Steve. Any item carrying an EMC value, the energy system in equivalent exchange operates on fixed EMC values assigned to most items, would undergo a transformation process, morphing into iron ingots, gold ingots, diamonds, and ultimately into the coveted substances of the equivalent exchange mod, such as dark matter and red matter. Both the black hole band and the gem of eternal density found a home not only within the player's backpack but also within the confines of the alchemy bag. With these 2 items in their possession, players would prepare a dedicated alchemy bag and embark on frenzied mining expeditions armed with a red matter hammer or a catalytic lens. The worry of running out of inventory space became obsolete. All collected items, whether it was dirt, gravel, cobblestone, coal, gold ingots, lapis lazuli, or even drops from defeated monsters, would be swiftly converted into red matter. Upon returning home, players would toss the accumulated red matter into the transmutation table, converting them into EMC values that could be exchanged for any desired materials. With sufficient time, the entire underground world could be emptied out. The might of the black hole band and the gem of eternal density was already awe-inspiring, but the void ring surpassed them all. According to the game's lore, the density of red matter possessed the capability to rupture the fabric of space-time itself. The void ring emerged from the player's mastery of red matter, forcefully combining the powers of the black hole band and the gem of eternal density within the end. As a result, the ring gained the unprecedented ability to control the void. Its dominion extended beyond mere absorption, breakdown, and reconstruction of matter. The void ring could annul fluids and even usurp the very authority of living beings, granting teleportation to wherever the wearer gazed. Fang Mo never anticipated acquiring such a remarkable artifact. His luck seemed almost unreal. Indeed, the equivalent exchange mod offered a plethora of valuable items aside from the transmutation table, including the Evertide Amulet, Vulcanite Amulet, Watch of Flowing Time, Destruction Catalyst, Catalytic Lens, Life Stone, Soul Stone, and a myriad of rings. On a survival-focused server, the possession of any of these items would significantly expedite gameplay and potentially wreak havoc on the server. Yet, even within this impressive collection, the Void Ring held an unrivaled status in Fang Mo's hands. Equivalent exchange revolved around the concept of EMC value, with most artifacts relying on the expenditure of these values for activation. However, Fang Mo had yet to unlock the equivalent exchange mod, thus lacking the essential energy storage device known as the Klein Star and the transmutation table. This raised a crucial question: how could he provide the necessary EMC values for the proper utilization of these artifacts? Fortunately, the Void Ring operated independently of EMC values. Additionally, it possessed the extraordinary ability to break down and reconstruct a variety of substances, ranging from cobblestone and rotten flesh to coal, cacti, apples, and wooden planks. Placing the Void Ring into the alchemy bag triggered a transformation, turning the bag into a devouring black hole. Useless junk poured in, and valuable resources, including gold, diamonds, dark matter, and even red matter, emerged in abundance. To Fang Mo, the prospect of turning trash into valuable resources like diamonds was an achievement in itself. Yet, the revelation that he could convert items into red matter opened up the possibility of crafting other exceptional items such as a red matter pickaxe. This revelation proved to be an invaluable asset. Overwhelmed with excitement, Fang Mo reflected on the extraordinary fortune he had encountered in Asgard. The first lucky block had already rewarded him with an incredible item. Driven by his enthusiasm, he decided to open another, eager to unveil further treasures. Once again, a familiar white light erupted, revealing a shimmering, dazzling sphere resembling an ender pearl. Could it be the extremely primordial pearl? Fang Mo gasped in disbelief. Though he now possessed the ability to create the extremely primordial pearl himself, as it belonged to the Avaricia mod, the required materials such as endstone, ender pearls, and neutronium ingots presented a daunting task. The extremely primordial pearl was an instrument of utter destruction. Its force field mimicked the collapse of a black hole, drawing in entities and inflicting void damage. Even the quantum suit from the Industrial Craft mod succumbed to its destructive power, disintegrating into pieces. Observing the extremely primordial pearl in Steve's possession, Fang Mo felt as if he truly resided in heaven, a realm of unimaginable wonders. The exploration of these treasure chests had proven to be an overwhelmingly fortunate endeavor. "I'm starting to fall in love with this place," Fang Mo confessed, gazing into the distance. While marveling at the beauty of Asgard, a sense of annoyance gripped him as he considered the imminent threat posed by the fire giant Surtur. Perhaps crafting a divine blade to vanquish Hela and save Asgard is the answer. Determined, Fang Mo added the creation of a divine great sword to his agenda, believing it would serve as a sufficient safeguard for the realm. Filled with a mixture of excitement, gratitude, and determination, he proceeded to open yet another lucky block. As the white light flashed once more, Steve's hand now held a brown wooden segment adorned with sharp spikes. Thorns. Fang Mo recognized the item, though in comparison to the previous two artifacts, it seemed rather minor. It belonged to the Twilight Forest mod. Nevertheless, Fang Mo remained content. After all, not every lucky block could yield the top prize. Moreover, he understood the potential that thorns held when wielded with skilled players, making it far from insignificant. MC becoming OP. Chapter 50, Chapter 49. The mod called Twilight Forest was one of Fang Mo's favorites. It added a new adventure-filled world to the game, allowing players to explore it gradually. One of the remarkable features of this world was the thorns, a unique plant that surrounded the final castle. These thorns had an extraordinary ability: no matter how players tried to destroy or collect them, they would instantly regenerate and multiply. They were indestructible and multiplied with each attempt. However, there was a way to destroy them in the game. Players had to defeat the Cloud Giant, use the pickaxe to dig through the obsidian in the Troll Cave, and obtain an item called the Lamp of Cinders. Only when the thorns were burned by the Lamp of Cinders would they lose their regenerative properties and turn into ash. In the past, when Fang Mo was a server owner, he used to place Twilight Thorns near other players' houses, challenging them to find the Lamp of Cinders and explore the entire map of Twilight Forest. He fondly remembered those mischievous and enjoyable moments. Although the Twilight Thorns currently had little practical purpose for Fang Mo, he still found satisfaction in knowing that they couldn't be collected in survival mode. The idea of thorns with similar properties in the real world fascinated him. With these thoughts in mind, Fang Mo cheerfully stored the Twilight Thorns in his backpack and asked Steve to open the lucky block. However, his luck seemed to have run out after obtaining the Void Ring and the extremely primordial pearl, as the next 4 items he received were rather ordinary. These items included shears, the bio ball from thermal expansion, the collation folder from Mistcraft, and an item called blood and flesh of unknown origin. Fang Mo knew the purpose of shears, which could be used to break leaves and had a guaranteed chance of obtaining saplings. The bio ball resembled a master ball from Pokemon, capable of capturing entities but disappearing after releasing them. Regarding the collation folder, Fang Mo had limited knowledge of the Mistcraft mod, but he knew it served little practical purpose. As for the blood and flesh, Fang Mo remained perplexed. Its appearance resembled crimson and peculiar zombie flesh. Fang Mo tasted it experimentally but couldn't determine its true nature. He couldn't understand if it was food or something else. This puzzling situation troubled Fang Mo. He realized that he might have never encountered the mod associated with this item before, as he should have some recollection or familiarity with it if he had played it previously. "Forget it, I won't dwell on it," Fang Mo muttered, shaking his head. He asked Steve to put away the 4 items he had obtained. Among all the items, the Void Ring intrigued Fang Mo the most. He hadn't expected to draw such a rare item with only 7 attempts. Lady Luck had truly favored him this time. As for the other items, they were not as significant as the Void Ring. To be honest, if Fang Mo didn't have a mod stuck at 80% completion without being unlocked, he would have used the linking book to return to the Minecraft world for some mining. He had no desire to spend another second in this unfamiliar realm. However, even without returning to the Minecraft world, Fang Mo couldn't contain his excitement to test the power of the Void Ring. As mentioned earlier, the Void Ring could be activated by placing it inside the alchemy bag. Anything within the alchemy bag would be disassembled and converted into various valuable materials. When Fang Mo had entered the Marvel world, he had filled the alchemy bag with various items, including enchantment tables, potions, nether stars, ender pearls, and valuable resources like enchanted golden apples, gold blocks, and lapis lazuli blocks. With a single thought, Fang Mo instructed Steve to open his backpack and increase its capacity using experience points, creating more space for the alchemy bag. Then, Fang Mo activated the Void Ring within the bag. As the Void Ring activated, its gem emitted a deep glow. Eagerly, Fang Mo fixed his gaze on the resources within the alchemy bag, anticipating their transformation into valuable materials. However, to his surprise, he waited for a long time, but the Void Ring didn't convert any of those resources as expected. Observing this perplexing sight, Fang Mo realized that something was wrong. What's happening? Refusing to accept the situation, Fang Mo tried again with another batch of items. But no matter what he threw into the alchemy bag, whether it was trash like rotten flesh or dirt, the Void Ring remained ineffective in converting them. Initially, Fang Mo thought he might be misusing the ring. However, when he had Steve toss a stone on the ground as a test, the stone was immediately drawn into the alchemy bag by the gravitational force of the Void Ring. It turned out that the gravitational function of the Void Ring still worked flawlessly. Only its conversion ability seemed to be malfunctioning. No way! Fang Mo couldn't believe what he was seeing. The ring had held so much promise, the potential to transform waste into treasure and create valuable materials. Discovering that only the gravitational function remained was a devastating blow. Despite his disappointment, Fang Mo tried to cope with the situation. As he contemplated his life choices, a sudden knock on the door interrupted his thoughts. Annoyed, he had no interest in opening it. With a wave of his hand, the door swung open on its own. Thor entered the room with a hearty laugh. Haha, Fang Mo, I have good news. Thor's face beamed with joy, his jovial mood contagious. The craftsmen of Asgard have repaired the Bifrost, and the bridge is operational once again. Lost in his own world, Fang Mo continued to stare blankly at the wall. What's wrong? Thor's expression changed as he noticed Fang Mo's state. Tell me, my friend. I'm in a terrible mood and need some time alone. Fang Mo rubbed his forehead. Do you know which race in the 9 realms is causing trouble? I can help you subdue them for free, turning them all into minced meat for dumplings. Taken aback, Thor burst into laughter, looking up. Haha, come now, friend, you wouldn't actually do something like that. You underestimate me. All right, let's not dwell on unhappy matters. Thor pulled Fang Mo to his feet, and they walked together toward the exit. In Asgard, feasts and fine wine can soothe any worries. Come, I'll take you for a drink. Initially hesitant, Fang Mo couldn't resist Thor's infectious enthusiasm. They arrived at the banquet hall, where Asgardian warriors warmly greeted them. Traditional Asgardian arts accompanied copious amounts of wine. However, as a digitized entity, a player, Fang Mo remained unaffected by alcohol. Despite consuming several barrels of Asgardian wine, even Thor succumbed to intoxication, slurring his words as he tried to console Fang Mo, his dazed expression accompanied by a pat on the shoulder. Don't worry, my friend, all hardships shall pass. Thanks, I do feel better now. Fang Mo chuckled and nodded, acknowledging that Thor's words had lifted his spirits somewhat. Reflecting on the situation, Fang Mo realized that the Void Ring couldn't decompose and convert items because he lacked the basic structure of the equivalent exchange module. The items in Steve's backpack had no EMC value, rendering them incompatible with the Void Ring's abilities. But Fang Mo had a new idea. Since the ring couldn't function in Steve's hands, he would materialize it himself. Who knew? It might have some miraculous effects. Very well, let's give it a try. Thor, pleased to see Fang Mo's improved mood, smiled warmly. However, something caught his attention, and he raised his arm to greet someone. Hey, Heimdall! Fang Mo turned to see Heimdall approaching, which was unusual considering his role as the guardian of the Bifrost and his usual abstention from alcohol. Perhaps the repairs had afforded him a rare respite. Yet, what surprised Fang Mo even more was that Heimdall bypassed the revelry and made his way directly to him. Fang Mo, I witnessed something in the distant realm of Midgard. Heimdall's expression turned serious as he addressed Fang Mo directly. Tony Stark is your friend, isn't he? Yes. Fang Mo was puzzled. What happened? He is on the verge of death. Chapter 51, Chapter 50. Goal, hello guys. Thank you for the 249 stones. If we reach 300 stones this week, I'll release additional chapter next week. Thank you. Heimdall, Fang Mo's face turned serious. What happened to Tony? I'm not sure, Heimdall replied with a grave tone. I haven't been closely monitoring Midgard. All I know is that he's not doing well. Maybe you should go see him. Worried, Thor immediately stood up, his alcohol-induced haze dissipating. What happened? Is he in danger? Fang Mo's friend is also my friend. I can help. Wait, Thor, Fang Mo interrupted, raising his hand. He was genuinely confused now. Tony Stark was supposed to have overcome his palladium poisoning issue based on the current timeline. Fang Mo had even given him a golden apple to aid his recovery. There shouldn't be any problems. Heimdall, can you explain what happened to Tony? He is on the verge of death, Heimdall revealed. Hey! Fang Mo's confusion deepened. Are you saying Tony Stark is going to die? Without wasting any time, Fang Mo made a decision. Is the Bifrost Bridge operational now? It is, Heimdall confirmed. In the name of the Alfather Odin, the Bifrost Bridge will always open for our allies. Then let's go, Fang Mo nodded. Let's go to the Bifrost Bridge together. I will accompany you, Thor offered immediately. He summoned Mjolnir, which flew to him, and held Heimdall with his other hand. You helped me greatly, and now it's my turn to help you. Fang Mo glanced at Thor, seeing his sincerity. It was hard for him to refuse such genuine assistance. Realizing the urgency of the situation, they wasted no time. Thor held Mjolnir in one hand and Heimdall in the other as they flew towards the Rainbow Bridge. Fang Mo flew alongside them. Within minutes, they reached the teleportation area. Heimdall inserted his sword into the energy hub, and a bright light flashed. Fang Mo and Thor found themselves on Earth. As soon as they arrived, Fang Mo took out his phone to make a call. However, to his surprise, the phone was dead. Having spent several days in Asgard, where they used runic technology, he hadn't had access to chargers. Thor, Fang Mo's face darkened, and he handed his phone to Thor, who was nearby. Can you do me a favor? What kind of favor? Thor asked curiously. Charge it, Fang Mo sighed, wiping his face. You're the god of thunder, right? Help me charge my phone, but be careful not to fry it. Thor was a bit perplexed, not fully understanding Earth's technology despite being the god of thunder. However, given the urgency of the situation, he reluctantly took the phone and tapped into his divine power. With a faint arc, Fang Mo's phone quickly turned on. Before Fang Mo could make a call, the phone started ringing on its own. He pressed the answer button without hesitation. Nick Fury's voice came through the phone. I should have given you a nuclear battery or built a signal base station for you in Asgard. What happened to Tony? Fang Mo cut to the chase. He's been poisoned, Nick Fury urgently explained. You know his reactor has significant flaws, but he refuses to remove it. What? Palladium poisoning? Fang Mo was taken aback. Wait, what's going on? Didn't you give him the new element formula left by his father? How do you know about that? Nick Fury sounded surprised but quickly explained. Actually, I never had the chance to give it to him. After he consumed the golden apple you gave him, he believed he had successfully solved the problem. He even dealt with a tech freak with 2 whips. You know how stubborn he can be. After recent events, he simply doesn't trust us anymore. He only trusts your miraculous apple. As a result, the concentration of palladium in his blood has been steadily decreasing. That should be a good thing. So why did he get palladium poisoning again? Fang Mo asked, puzzled. I don't know, Nick Fury admitted. Until now, he hasn't been willing to trust Shield. But according to reports from my agents, it seems he replaced his reactor with a more powerful one. Incurable, no hope, just waiting to die, Fang Mo muttered upon hearing this. Goodbye. Wait a minute, Nick Fury urged. The situation is critical now. It's not the time for jokes. Tony's life is in imminent danger. Fine, I'll go there anyway, Fang Mo replied, taking a deep breath to stay calm. He asked over the phone, just give me the address. It's a private hospital about 7 miles away from you, Nick Fury provided. The exact address has been sent to your phone. Got it, Fang Mo acknowledged, then hung up the phone. In just a few minutes, Fang Mo and Thor arrived at the private hospital. Tony Stark, being a wealthy man, had spared no expense. He seemed to have rented out the entire private hospital, and there were no other patients in sight. As soon as they entered, Fang Mo saw Tony Stark lying on the hospital bed. Pepper Potts wore a worried expression, Dr. Ho Yinsen adjusted some equipment, and Nick Fury stood nearby lost in thought. But Fang Mo's attention was drawn to someone else, Natasha Romanoff, also known as the famous Black Widow in the Marvel Universe. She was examining something nearby. Seeing Natasha, Fang Mo had an instant realization. In the original plot of Iron Man 2, Black Widow was involved. But now, due to some butterfly effect caused by his actions, Nick Fury had completely messed up the situation. Tony, who was already suspicious, didn't want to believe in Shield anymore. I think I know why Tony doesn't trust you anymore, Fang Mo said directly to Nick Fury. Can you save him? Nick Fury cut to the chase, his focus on Tony's critical condition. His condition is dire. The palladium poisoning has even affected his heart. No guarantees, Fang Mo's attention shifted to Stark. What's wrong with you? I warned you not to mess with palladium. Why didn't you listen? Chapter 52, Chapter 51. Tony wanted to respond, but he couldn't even move or speak. Fang Mo could be really annoying sometimes. Tony wondered how Fang Mo could come up with so many irritating things to say using just the same 26 letters of the alphabet. Compared to Fang Mo, Tony considered himself quick-witted, but he felt completely outmatched. Fang Mo was like a powerful mythical figure, and Tony felt like a helpless baby in comparison. Mr. Fang Mo, Tony really needs your help, Pepper pleaded sincerely, breaking the silence. He cares more about a stupid reactor than his own life, he has a terrible personality, and he won't listen to anyone's advice. But as Tony's friend, I'm asking you to find a way to help him, just this once. Fang Mo thought about how to save Tony and responded, but his problem is related to science. Why don't you go to a doctor instead of coming to me, a sorcerer? Fang Mo, scientific methods can't save Tony anymore, Dr. Ho Yinsen chimed in after finishing his work on the medical equipment. He turned to Fang Mo and explained, there is too much palladium in Tony's body, and his organs and bones are permanently damaged. We've tried every scientific method we know, but nothing has worked. That's right, added Nick Fury. None of the known medical techniques can fully cure him. Hey? You think I can do something about it? Fang Mo asked. You've been to the realm of the gods, so you must know more methods than us, Nick Fury replied. If even you can't save Tony, then we're out of options. Fang Mo, is your friend sick? Thor asked after listening for a while. If the medical technology here isn't enough, you can bring him to Asgard. We have the best healing methods in the 9 realms. And who is this? Dr. Ho Yinsen looked curiously at Thor when he heard his words. Oh, he's Thor, Fang Mo introduced. He is the Thor from Norse mythology, the son of Odin from Asgard. He is currently my friend. Norse mythology? The god of thunder. Dr. Ho Yinsen was completely stunned, as he was just a surgeon. Pepper immediately asked, can Asgard heal Tony? After listening to their conversation. Of course, Thor proudly responded. The healing methods in Asgard. Before he could finish speaking, Tony suddenly showed signs of extreme pain, and his body tensed up. Tony's heart has stopped. Dr. Ho Yinsen exclaimed, rushing over. We need to perform CPR on him. Let the experts handle this, Fang Mo said, pushing Thor forward. Dr. Ho Yinsen, put down that tool. But Tony. I can handle it, Fang Mo thought. Let me show you real magic, old doctor. Thor, always reliable, realized that Tony's heart had stopped. Drawing from his experience in the 9 realms, he immediately placed his hand on Tony's body. With a surge of electricity, Tony suddenly jolted up from the bed, and his heartbeat returned to normal. Keep working on rescuing him here. I'll test something, Fang Mo instructed the others, then pulled out a large blade from behind. Everyone in the room was shocked by what they saw. Pepper was horrified by the scene, but since no one else reacted, she managed to stay calm. As for Fang Mo, after making the incision, an unpleasant smell filled the air. It wasn't the smell of blood, but rather something like a foul odor from a drainage system. It was hard to describe, but it was definitely uncomfortable. Stark's palladium poisoning was severe. His internal organs had turned a strange dark greenish-black color, and his blood vessels were twisted and tangled. It was a terrifying sight. Dr. Ho Yinsen hadn't lied, Tony's condition was critical. Oh my god, Tony! Pepper couldn't help but cover her mouth in shock. It looks really bad, Nick Fury said, frowning, and turned to Fang Mo. Can it still be cured? Let's give it a try, Fang Mo replied. He raised his hand, and Steve handed him a vial of regenerative potion. With a bright flash, the potion appeared, and Fang Mo poured it into Tony's mouth. After administering the potion, Fang Mo called Dr. Ho Yinsen to join him. Let's see if my method will work. Do you know which organ in the human body can be removed without causing death? Fang Mo asked. Dr. Ho Yinsen looked at Fang Mo, feeling overwhelmed. I do. But is this how sorcerers heal? Then what do you think we do? Fang Mo waved his hand. We chant and ask for blessings, perform elaborate rituals, and rely on powerful mysticism. You can try cutting here. Dr. Ho Yinsen, thinking it might have been a mistake to involve Fang Mo, pointed and said, this is the gallbladder. Even if you remove it, it's okay. The common bile duct will take over its function. Here we go. Fang Mo raised his hand and brought down the knife. Everyone in the room silently mourned for Tony, watching this scene. Even Nick Fury secretly concluded that sorcerers weren't skilled at healing. But what they didn't expect was that, in an instant, the removed gallbladder started growing back. Chapter 53, Chapter 52. Tony was very sick, and it showed that when someone courts death, nothing can stop them. If he hadn't replaced the powerful reactor after eating the golden apple, he wouldn't have suffered so much. During Tony's surgery, Fang Mo operated on him without using anesthesia. He used a special tool called the hellish cleaver to cut wherever he needed to, removing any palladium deposits he found. Tony was in so much pain though he couldn't speak or move easily. Finally, Dr. Ho Yinsen couldn't stand it anymore and gave Tony anesthesia to put him to sleep. The surgery took over 2 hours, and Fang Mo used special potions to help with the healing. Dr. Ho Yinsen provided support by telling Fang Mo about the parts he was cutting. Together, their medical and magical skills saved Tony from death's door. After doing the autopsy, I have the results, Fang Mo calmly told the others, wiping the blood off his body. The cause of death was the autopsy itself. Nick Fury couldn't help but smirk and said, "So you knew you were doing an autopsy? I thought you genuinely believed you were doing surgery. You don't understand. This is the deep and powerful magic art of medicine," Fang Mo replied, showing a bottle of regeneration potion. "Do you know what this is? A potion that can heal the body." Nick Fury guessed. "This is the legendary potion that can even poison and harm gods," Fang Mo said plainly. "Drink it in the morning, lie in the coffin in the afternoon, and go straight to the crematorium at night. 3 sips of this potion, and you're guaranteed to die." "Don't try to fool me," Nick Fury replied. "I may have lost an eye, but I'm not blind. You used this potion to save Tony's life earlier. Now you're saying it's a poison? Do you really think I'll believe you? In my homeland, there's a famous potion maker called Cuttlefish. We have a saying that all medicine is a little bit poisonous," Fang Mo explained. "You see, Tony was already poisoned by palladium. So using a little bit of poison to counteract it makes sense, right? And the result proves it. Palladium poison was no match for our cuttlefish potions. Tony was saved." "I've never heard anything like this before," Nick Fury said, used to Fang Mo's strange ways and often hearing things he couldn't understand. He asked directly, "But I'm curious about this potion of yours. Can you give me some?" "It's $9.9 billion per bottle," Fang Mo quickly replied. "You know alchemy, so why do you need money?" Nick Fury asked, unable to hold back. "Alchemy is just for show, to prove that none of you are as rich as I am," Fang Mo remarked. "But lately, I've developed a new hobby, making money off people. We don't even have $9.9 billion in all of S.H.I.E.L.D, Nick Fury stated. "Even the gold you gave me was used for our agent's expenses. Honestly, SHIELD is not as rich as you think. Then let's make a trade. Give me the Tesseract," Fang Mo proposed. "I know it's precious to you. I just want to, play with it a little." "Oops. Why did I say something so outrageous? You want the Tesseract?" Nick Fury became cautious. "What do you want to do with it?" "I just want to study it out of curiosity," Fang Mo replied. "Don't treat it like a precious treasure. It originally belonged to Asgard, but they're ignoring it now. I just want to borrow it and study it. If you don't want to lend it to me, I can return it to Odin, and then I'll go to Asgard to study it in the same way. I'll take you to see the Tesseract in a few days," Nick Fury said after thinking for a moment. "That's settled," Fang Mo smiled. "Just trust me. We've known each other for a long time. When have I ever tricked you? What about Tony?" Nick Fury changed the subject, not wanting to discuss the Tesseract in detail with others present. "Has he recovered from the danger?" "Yes," Fang Mo nodded. "He has been completely healed." "That's quite a transformation," Nick Fury said, rubbing his temples with a headache. "I've seen many strange things in my career as an agent, but you've truly invoked a miracle. Today, I've seen it all." "Well, indeed." Dr. Ho Yinsen couldn't help but agree. Fang Mo's recent actions have been, well, beyond anything we've seen in medicine. "We from the mysterious side only care about the results," Fang Mo confidently stated. "The process doesn't matter as long as the person is alive and well." While they were talking, Pepper suddenly exclaimed, Tony seems to be waking up." Everyone turned their heads towards the hospital bed. Tony Stark slowly opened his eyes. You're awake. Fang Mo approached with a smile. The surgery was successful. Congratulations, you're now a girl. Tony was confused by the comment. But then Pepper hugged him tightly. Tony, thank goodness. They really cured you. I'm still alive. Tony realized as Pepper embraced him. I've been saved. Of course, with the help of the amazing doctor, we can cure anything. Oops, sorry, I got the lines mixed up. What I mean is, I've been practicing medicine of moon pathways for decades. I can cure minor illnesses in minutes. Don't worry, the new you is completely healed, Fang Mo said, imitating the voice of an old wise man. Physically healed, but mentally, Dr. Ho Yinsen thought to himself. A minor illness. Tony had just woken up and was still feeling a bit confused from the anesthesia. He said, palladium poisoning is a terminal illness, complete organ failure. Don't worry, I removed all your diseased tissues, Fang Mo pointed to the ground. Look, all the stuff on the floor is what I removed from your body. Removing the damaged organs is like cutting chives. Once you cut some, more grows back. But now you're cured. Tony looked at the ground and was shocked. What the heck is all this on the floor? Chapter 54, Chapter 53. What is all this stuff on the ground? Tony exclaimed, shocked and scared. Pepper held him back so he wouldn't fall off the bed. They are your organs, Fang Mo replied casually, showing no concern. He had cut them out himself, so he wasn't afraid. I can't even tell if I'm alive or dead anymore. Tony felt deeply shaken by his experience. Memories of Fang Mo's surgery were coming back, making him sweat and struggle to breathe. Am I, in hell? I'm here, Tony, Pepper reassured him, holding his face. You're not dead. They saved you, despite the scary process. You're still alive. That's right, Tony, Dr. Ho Yinsen added, coming closer. Fang Mo saved you again, and I got to see the, magic. I'm still alive. Tony started to calm down after their reassurances. He remembered now. He had tested an upgraded reactor that accidentally poisoned him. After failed attempts to treat him, Fang Mo appeared and used a huge blade to operate on him. The surgery had been very painful, like going to hell. Even now, the thought of it made Tony tremble. He was sweating and felt cold all over. When he saw the pile of organs on the ground, Tony tried not to think about what had happened. But his brilliant mind couldn't stop speculating, making him more terrified. Lost in his thoughts, Tony looked at Fang Mo. Surprisingly, Fang Mo was looking back at him with a smile. How do you feel, Tony? Fang Mo asked with a smile. Will you dare to try being a Palladium man again? Why do you always say strange things? Tony weakly replied. Okay, I admit I don't want to go through this again. Tony, you have to get rid of your reactor, Pepper said firmly. She looked into his eyes and said, this is not up for discussion. You need to be Tony Stark first, not just Iron Man. Do you understand? I understand what you mean, Pepper, Stark replied, feeling conflicted. But the palladium poisoning has nothing to do with the reactor. After eating that golden apple, I won't be poisoned anymore. My body gets rid of heavy metals much faster than normal. Then how do you explain what happened this time? Pepper looked at him, helpless but caring. Your bones even emit a palladium glow. Maybe this time the power was too high, Stark explained. It was an accident during the experiment. The chip controlling the coil had a flaw. When I tested the power, it burst out and almost vaporized the palladium ring. Do you understand? Tony, can you guarantee that nothing will go wrong next time? Pepper stared at him, disappointment in her eyes. Or are you willing to risk your life instead of giving up your iron armor? My armor is made of titanium alloy, not iron, Stark replied, getting angry. Fine, I get it, Pepper's expression hardened, and she laughed sadly. She got up from the bed. It seems all you need, Iron Man, is your reactor and attention. Nothing else. Pepper. Tony realized the seriousness of the situation, but before he could say anything, Pepper left. Tony, you shouldn't talk to Miss Potts like that, Agent Coulson said, feeling helpless. Do you know how worried she is about you? She even thought about giving her organs to you. You shouldn't speak that way. It seems our playboy doesn't handle emotions well, Nick Fury commented. I have a girlfriend on Earth too, and I know sometimes we have to be firm and persistent, Thor said, joining the conversation. But hurting a woman is not what a man should do. We should consider the bigger picture. Oh, Earth is really interesting, Tony, now provoked, replied. Even the gods of Asgard fall for Earth girls. Are you planning to get married under the world tree? Will Odin be the one officiating? Well. Thor was surprised by Tony's response and hesitated. Thor had a short temper too, so he didn't appreciate the comment. But before he could reply, Fang Mo stepped in and put a hand on Thor's shoulder. Fang Mo, your friend isn't very friendly, Thor said to Fang Mo, suggesting, he's just like I used to be. Maybe he should face a trial too. What if we send him to Jotunheim, where he can't do things on his armor? What do you think? That's a dangerous idea, Fang Mo frowned, not expecting even Thor to stoop so low. Jotunheim? Sounds interesting, Tony, unaware of the seriousness, continued joking. But if I'm going there, I'll need more clothes and better cold resistance in my armor. Yes, your armor's cold resistance needs improvement, Fang Mo smoothly took over, seeing that Tony was persistent. Otherwise, you might freeze your arms and legs in Jotunheim, and I'll have to amputate them. Tony fell silent when he heard this. Chapter 55, Chapter 54. Hey, don't forget to pay me for the consultation later, Fang Mo reminded Tony. Seeing Tony's silence, Fang Mo continued, remember what I said earlier? I sold that bottle of medicine to SHIELD for $9.9 billion. Since we're friends, I'll give you a discount. You only need to pay for 3 potions instead of 4. And for the cardiac resuscitation performed by none other than God of Thunder, Thor, would a few $1 million be a problem? After you settle the payment, you'll have spent a total of $30 billion. Thanks for being my customer, Fang Mo said, reaching out his hand to Tony. Is that your fee for the consultation? Tony Stark couldn't help but comment. After this surgery, you'll practically own all of Stark Industries. If I don't make dirty money, am I still human? Fang Mo replied happily. Stark Industries has made money from selling weapons. If I don't make money from Tony Stark, can I still have a clear conscience? You can still be considered human, Tony Stark responded, speechless. Pepper left angrily a while ago, and he was frustrated. I'm definitely not human. Fang Mo said emphatically, patting his chest. Tony face-palmed, covering his face and not wanting to say anything anymore. If it were someone else, they would have exploded by now considering his personality. But Fang Mo had saved his life multiple times. Even if Tony Stark didn't want to admit it, he had come to appreciate Fang Mo. He couldn't bring himself to get angry with him. Fang Mo also knew when to stop. Noticing Tony Stark's change in mood, he walked over and patted his shoulder, saying, all right, let it go. If palladium doesn't work, try finding a radiation-free element to replace it. You think I haven't tried that? Stark sighed. I've tried all the known elements and combinations. There simply isn't an alternative. Also, palladium doesn't emit radiation. You've tested all the known elements? Yes, Tony looked genuinely troubled. I understand Pepper's concerns, and I understand everything, but I just can't find a solution. I can see that, Fang Mo nodded. You're really confused right now. Tony remained silent. But where I come from, when people face difficulties and confusion, they usually have heartfelt conversations with their parents, Fang Mo said slowly. Not to beg for help, but to seek comfort and guidance from their family's love, to find the right path in life again. Tony glanced silently at Fang Mo. My parents have been dead for over 20 years. But Howard Stark will always be your father, Fang Mo smiled. One of the founders of SHIELD, a senior researcher of the Tesseract, the maker of Captain America's shield, your beloved father. What are you trying to say? Tony Stark was taken aback. He knew what Fang Mo meant, but the anesthesia made him feel lightheaded, making it hard to think straight. Even now, he can still teach you a lesson, Fang Mo continued. He pointed to Nick Fury, who was nearby. See him? The director of SHIELD, also known as the man who calls himself Allspy Father. He used to be your father's employee. What? Thor was stunned. I have to clarify. Upon hearing this, Nick Fury wanted to defend himself, but Fang Mo suddenly took out a bottle of regeneration potion and played with it in his hand. Then he spoke solemnly, "Yes, indeed, I worked for your father. Mr. Howard Stark was a great man." "Wait, you're saying my father was one of the founders of S.H.I.E.L.D. Only then did Stark react. "Your father left something for you," Nick Fury said. "I wanted to give it to you earlier, but due to some misunderstandings and conflicts." "It wasn't a misunderstanding," Tony Stark immediately retorted, pointing directly at Natasha. All right, don't blame her." Seeing the situation, Fang Mo acted as a mediator. She's also had a tough life, spending most of it on missions, risking her life. "If you want to blame someone, blame Director Fury." Natasha looked confused at Fang Mo's words. "I won't ignore what you just said," Nick Fury spoke up. "I'm responsible for the safety of my employees' lives. So, what did you predict this time? That's a story for later. I'll tell you when I'm in a good mood." Fang Mo waved his hand. "For now, just give Tony the things and let him create the new element. I still want to make some money from Stark Industries. How can I continue playing Minecraft if he keeps going like this?" "I'll send someone to get those files," Nick Fury said. After a brief explanation, everyone went their separate ways. Thor went to find his girlfriend Jane, Nick Fury took Natasha back to SHIELD to retrieve the files, and Tony Stark couldn't wait to leave and return to his seaside villa. As for Dr. Ho Yinsen, he was the owner of the hospital and had to quickly deal with the mess on the ground. After handling all the troubles, Fang Mo returned to his house in the suburbs of New York, planning to take a short rest. Honestly, Fang Mo didn't expect Tony Stark to cause such a fuss. According to the original story, Tony was affected by palladium poisoning a while ago, and then SHIELD stepped in. As a result, he invented a clean new element and resolved the threat of the Whiplash villain. This plot even happened before Thor. But unexpectedly, Stark used an extreme method of enhanced metabolism to withstand the palladium poisoning and even solved the Whiplash problem just because of a golden apple. If it weren't for his own recklessness, he could have probably used the old palladium reactor for the rest of his life. That was quite embarrassing. You see, Fang Mo had only given him the golden apple as a temporary solution. But once materialized, the golden apple turned out to be incredibly potent. Even Fang Mo didn't anticipate that. In the game, the golden apple was just an ordinary healing item. But in reality, it became a sacred object, similar to the golden apples in Norse mythology. You should know that anything associated with myths and legends is considered powerful. Enhanced physical abilities, immortality, and eternal youth are considered normal. Just like the peaches of immortality and ginseng fruits, they allow one to become immortal with a single bite. And it was because Stark consumed the golden apple that his metabolism greatly increased, allowing him to successfully metabolize the palladium in his body. If an ordinary golden apple was already that potent, wouldn't an enchanted golden apple send someone straight to heaven with a single bite? Thinking about this, Fang Mo felt tempted to try it out. Chapter 56, Chapter 55. The crafting formula for the golden apple is remarkably simple. It involves placing an apple at the center of the crafting table and surrounding it with a circle of gold ingots. The enchanted golden apple, another variation of this formula, replaces the circle of gold ingots with gold blocks. Fang Mo, a dedicated miner, never allows his home to run out of ores. Surprisingly, it is the apple itself in the formula that proves to be the more troublesome material for Fang Mo. Before venturing into the Marvel world this time, Fang Mo synthesized a total of 32 golden apples and 6 enchanted golden apples. It's not that he ran out of gold, on the contrary, he ran out of apples. Despite his wealth, Fang Mo found himself lost in thought as he stared at the golden apple before him. Did Tony peel the golden apple before eating it? Fang Mo pondered absent-mindedly, reaching out and carefully examining the golden apple. The apple felt heavy in his hand, with a smooth and cool skin that resembled a finely polished metallic surface. Frankly, it looked more like gold than an apple. Fang Mo even suspected that taking a bite out of it would risk chipping his teeth. However, considering Tony had consumed one without harm, Fang Mo tentatively opened his mouth and took a bite. With a satisfying crunch, Fang Mo bit off a large piece of the apple flesh. Contrary to its metallic appearance, the flesh of the golden apple was delicate and crystal clear white. While chewing, the crispy flesh released a sweet and tangy juice that instantly filled Fang Mo's mouth. Its rich aroma, encompassing all the flavors of apples, rushed into his nostrils, causing Fang Mo's eyes to light up involuntarily. Soon, the entire golden apple was devoured by Fang Mo. Shortly after, he felt a slight itching sensation in his body, but it vanished within a minute. Fang Mo tested his physical abilities and noticed a slight increase in strength. However, he likened the impact to a martial artist who could deliver a punch with a force of 100,000 kilograms, now being able to deliver a punch with a force of 100,001 kilograms, an effect that, for him, was almost negligible. Recalling Tony's previous physical condition, Fang Mo noticed the evident changes in his body. When Fang Mo performed surgery on him, the density of Tony's muscles and bones surpassed that of a regular person, approaching the limits of human capability. It was akin to Captain America or Black Panther, who gained superhuman strength through the super soldier serum and the heart-shaped herb, respectively. Based on Tony's physical transformation, Fang Mo conjectured that the regular golden apple possessed a similar ability to enhance the human body, allowing ordinary individuals to reach the limits of human strength. As for why it didn't have the same effect on Fang Mo, he speculated it might be due to his consumption of a large amount of essence berries. Fang Mo's current strength already surpassed that of a regular human, enabling him to stand toe-to-toe with beings like Thanos and the Hulk. Even the gods of Asgard wouldn't dare to challenge him, rendering the effects of the serum and the herb useless if combined. Having tested the regular golden apple, Fang Mo shifted his attention to the enchanted golden apple, a more extraordinary item. The enchanted golden apple, made from 8 solid gold blocks, possessed incredible strength and density, capable of astonishing anyone. If we were to calculate it based on real-world rules, the enchanted golden apple would weigh a staggering 152 tons, yet it remained the size of a fist. One could almost imagine it collapsing and shrinking into a dwarf-like state if accidentally consumed in larger quantities. Fortunately, after materialization, the weight of the enchanted golden apple wasn't as outrageous as one might expect. Fang Mo weighed it in his hand and found it to be just slightly heavier than a regular golden apple. He then took a tentative bite. With a crisp sound, Fang Mo chewed the crunchy flesh, and the tangy juice burst out from the cells, flowing down his throat. However, unlike the regular golden apple, this one had a golden-hued juice that not only looked beautiful but also possessed a strong fragrance. With just one bite, the entire room was filled with a refreshing fruity aroma. Soon, Fang Mo finished consuming the enchanted golden apple. This time, Fang Mo's sensations were distinct. It was a feeling unlike consuming essence berries. The berry provided a warm feeling as it flowed through the body, while the enchanted golden apple imparted a cool and transparent sensation, as if every cell in Fang Mo's body was breathing. Accompanied by the delightful aroma from the juice, Fang Mo felt his body rapidly growing stronger, and his consciousness becoming clearer simultaneously. It was as if an invisible veil had been lifted, making the whole world appear more vivid. Fang Mo experienced the presence of dust floating in the air, a gentle breeze blowing through the grass outside the door, and even a small insect crawling on the windowsill. He quietly savored this marvelous feeling, where everything seemed within his sight and reach. Achievement obtained, overpowered. A notification sound rang in Fang Mo's mind before long. It was an achievement granted to players in the game after consuming an enchanted golden apple. But at this moment, Fang Mo seemed to understand why it was named overpowered. This feeling is indeed quite pleasant. Fang Mo took a deep breath and then, with a thought, controlled Steve to retrieve another enchanted golden apple. Receiving the enchanted golden apple, Fang Mo witnessed a flash of white light as it materialized, and he immediately began devouring it. Soon, another enchanted golden apple vanished into his stomach, filling the air with its enchanting aroma, and the cool and transparent sensation flowed through Fang Mo's body once more. However, this time, Fang Mo didn't experience the clear consciousness sensation. So, that's how it is, Fang Mo nodded subconsciously, realizing, it seems that this item, like the heart-shaped herb and the serum, is a one-time use item and can't be reused like the essence berries. With that thought in mind, Fang Mo casually placed the golden apple back into the alchemy bag. However, as he opened the bag, his attention was suddenly drawn to the void ring inside. In that moment, a new idea emerged in his mind. Chapter 57, Chapter 56. Fang Mo's gaze fell upon the void ring nestled in the alchemy bag, and an instant bold idea sprouted in his mind. The void ring, an extraordinary item from the equivalent exchange mod, possessed a remarkable ability. It could absorb large quantities of dropped items and reconstruct materials, transforming trash into valuable resources like gold ingots and diamonds. However, since Fang Mo hadn't loaded the mod, the concept of EMC value didn't exist in his world. Thus, the potential of the Void Ring remained untapped, reducing it to a mere item capable of absorbing items and teleporting, which he could do with his Ender Hand force field. At first, Fang Mo wanted to keep the ring for later, but he changed his mind. The equivalent exchange mod could make him really strong, but he already had everything he needed to be incredibly powerful. So, what would be the point of keeping the ring? Instead, Fang Mo decided to use it for real-world experiments. He summoned Steve to retrieve the Void Ring from the alchemy bag and handed it over to him. Grasping the Void Ring, a white light flashed, revealing a beautiful and enigmatic ring in Fang Mo's palm. Examining the ring closely, he observed its lead grey color and ancient, faint purple engravings. At its center lay an embedded black gemstone, seemingly capable of absorbing all light, like a miniature black hole. The ring exuded an unimaginable power. Merely holding it felt as if all the matter in the world had converged into Fang Mo's hand, surpassing any reasonable limit of density. Activating his Ender Hand force field, Fang Mo was surprised to see the Void Ring respond. Its engravings glowed, unleashing a terrifying suction force that rapidly weakened his Ender Hand force field. The gemstone grew even more profound, resembling a living black hole devouring everything around it. The purple halo of the Ender Hand force field encircled it, resembling the accretion disk of a black hole. In that moment, a macabre and haunting beauty enveloped Fang Mo as he felt a connection with the ring. A peculiar sensation of immense power inexplicably appeared within his mind. Instinctively, Fang Mo attempted to activate this power. Boom! Visible ripples radiated outward, forming an expanding spherical force field that tore apart and shattered everything in his living room. Within seconds, his entire house exploded, leaving behind a devastating crater. Bewildered, Fang Mo sat amidst the debris, surveying the ruin that had replaced his home. Stunned, he gazed down at the Void Ring clutched in his hand. Is this still the Void Ring? Fang Mo couldn't help but feel incredulity and absurdity. Damn, is this a Rin Egan ring? Even Pain would be impressed. Fortunately, Fang Mo had prudently chosen an isolated location for his house. Otherwise, this incident would have undoubtedly caused a tremendous uproar. However, this experience provided Fang Mo with some understanding of the Void Ring's capabilities. The Void Ring was synthesized from the Gem of Eternal Density, Red Matter, and the Black Hole Band. While the Gem of Eternal Density was associated with the concept of ether, the Void Ring focused on density rather than ether. This led Fang Mo to speculate that the ring contained ether condensed to a critical density. Considering that ether represents space and ultra-high density space implies infinite space-time curvature, combined with the density approaching infinity, the red matter's ability to rupture the space-time continuum, and the gravitational properties of the black hole band, Fang Mo suspected that the Void Ring possessed a power akin to that of a black hole, the ability to manipulate gravity. Fr? I think author just chatting SHT here. Contemplating the Void Ring in his hand, Fang Mo thought about various characters from movies, anime, games, and novels. Soon, he organized his thoughts. He adorned the Void Ring and raised his hand, aiming it at a tree along the roadside. Numerous root systems were effortlessly torn apart, and the ground cracked as the massive tree hurtled toward Fang Mo at high speed. Commanding a thought, Fang Mo summoned a formidable force field that clashed with the airborne tree. In an instant, the giant tree disintegrated into countless fragments, dispersed by the force field's power. But Fang Mo's exploration didn't cease there. His gaze shifted toward a nearby street. In the next second, a black light flashed, and Fang Mo's figure disappeared from its original position, reappearing directly on the street. The sudden appearance startled nearby birds, which fluttered their wings in preparation for flight. Fang Mo raised his hand, catching a hapless bird mid-air, its pitiful cry echoing through the air. Observing the frightened bird in his grasp, Fang Mo nodded instinctively, then released it, allowing the creature to take flight. The Void Ring truly deserved its status as a significant item of equivalent exchange. Its strength was staggering, capable of capturing living beings, a power surpassing that of the Ender Hand force field. Fang Mo couldn't help but feel a sense of satisfaction. However, just as Fang Mo prepared to continue testing the Void Ring's capabilities, his phone rang from within his pocket. Retrieving the device, he noticed an incoming call from Nick Fury and promptly answered. "Have you prepared the $9.90 billion?" Fang Mo replied with a jest, "I've prepared our family's sequence potion for you. 3 gulps of the potion, and I guarantee you'll die immediately without the chance for revival." "Mr. Fang Mo, Director Fury is in critical condition. Agent Coulson's anxious voice reached Fang Mo's ears unexpectedly. S.H.I.E.L.D.'s base has come under sudden attack, and the enemy has stolen the Tesseract. What in the world? Fang Mo exclaimed, utterly taken aback. Is he dead? Chapter 58, Chapter 57. Fang Mo was taken aback upon hearing the voice on the phone. Did I curse him to death? This is no time for jokes, Mr. Fang Mo. Coulson anxiously replied. S.H.I.E.L.D's base has been destroyed, and Director Fury was attacked by 2 aliens. He's critically injured and on the verge of death. Before he fell into a coma, he told me to contact you at all costs. Wait, did you say 2 aliens? Fang Mo was suddenly stunned. Are you sure? The situation seemed to mirror the beginning of the Avengers, with the theft of the Tesseract and the explosion at S.H.I.E.L.D's base. But these 2 aliens were peculiar. Loki was still imprisoned in Asgard's dungeon, and even if he had escaped, who could the other alien be? Could it possibly be Thanos himself? Yes, 2 aliens, Coulson confirmed. Mr. Fang Mo, wait for me for 2 minutes. I'll be at your place soon. Only you can heal Director Fury's injuries. Well, all right. Fang Mo rubbed his forehead, unsure of where the plot was heading. Soon after, he heard the sound of a car speeding from a distance. A black sedan abruptly braked and came to a stop in front of Fang Mo. Coulson hastily stepped out of the driver's seat but appeared stunned as he looked up at the ruins before him. What is this? Coulson appeared bewildered. Fang Mo approached him and asked directly, Mr. Fang Mo, have you also been attacked by aliens? Aren't aliens no match for me? Fang Mo retorted. Bring Kong along too, I'll delve into his brain and be done with it. But what about this? Fang Mo cleared his throat and explained, consider it a magical experiment or something. It happens sometimes, you know. Seeking the truth comes at a price, so there's no need to be alarmed. All right, Coulson reluctantly agreed. Suppressing his doubts, Coulson quickly said, the director is in the car, barely holding on. Okay, understood. Fang Mo responded and proceeded directly towards the car. Nick Fury's injuries were severe. He had deep wounds on his chest, abdomen, and thighs, but the most critical one was on his neck, as if it had been inflicted by a sharp object. Despite using S.H.I.E.L.D's advanced hemostatic device, the entire back seat was soaked in blood. Fury had long lost consciousness. Fang Mo wasted no words. He simply poured a bottle of regeneration potion into Fury, and soon the wounds on his body began to rapidly heal. Before long, Fury suddenly sat up. The Tesseract has been stolen, Fury thought after waking up. Seeing his sarcastic buddy return to life, Fang Mo's demeanor turned nonchalant again. So now you've had the potion, but the Tesseract is gone. This means SHIELD owes me $9.9 billion. If we don't address this matter, SHIELD is finished, Nick Fury swiftly declared. We're already in dire straits. Earth is facing a powerful alien enemy, and we have no clue about their intentions. Everyone must unite to confront this. Then go find Captain America and Iron Man, Fang Mo shrugged. Didn't I tell you from the beginning? I'm not a hero or anything. But they took the Tesseract, Fury interjected. To be honest, I was planning to give that thing to you, but now it's been taken by aliens. Damn those aliens! Fang Mo swiftly drew his hellish cleaver. Quickly tell me where they are and inform the Avengers members to prepare for a showdown. They'll be the filling in the dumplings tonight. Agent Coulson, witnessing the scene, didn't dare to utter a word. He certainly didn't fancy eating alien-filled dumplings. I don't know their location, but they must be planning something dangerous, Nick Fury said seriously. Those 2 individuals not only took the Tesseract, but they also used a scepter to control our agents and scientists. If their only objective was the Tesseract, they wouldn't need to control our people. There must be another motive. Just like the plot of the Avengers. Fang Mo narrowed his eyes instinctively upon hearing Fury's statement. What are you thinking? Nick Fury looked up and asked. Is it another prophecy? What will we face in the future? Can't you pinpoint the exact location of those 2 aliens? I've already told you, I can't predict everything with precision, Fang Mo explained. Some things, even I can't see their specific details. The future is constantly changing. Something as simple as spending 10 extra minutes on the toilet in the morning could alter the course of events and lead to the destruction of Earth. I can only make predictions, I'm not all-knowing. All right, I understand, Nick Fury nodded unconsciously. I need to inform Congress about this matter. It's not something to be taken lightly. I must obtain full authorization from all parties to activate the Avengers Initiative. Well then, hurry up with that. Fang Mo waved his hand. I'll continue practicing sorcery, so that these aliens can truly feel the pain. I'll keep you updated, Nick Fury said as he discreetly stashed away the empty bottle of the regeneration potion in his pocket. Coulson, let's go. Yes, Director, Coulson responded. Observing the situation, Coulson swiftly got into the car and stepped on the gas, leaving the ruins behind. After their departure, Fang Mo proceeded to test the Void Ring once again. Fang Mo wasn't the type who excelled at building or researching complex redstone contraptions. He couldn't recall intricate crafting recipes from industrial mods either. But when it came to combat, he possessed extraordinary talent. His intuition, reflexes, and mental acuity were top-notch. In his previous life, he had been trapped on an unremarkable Earth where his abilities were rendered useless, wasting his talent on meaningless games. But now, his abilities could finally be fully utilized. Within a few hours, Fang Mo had almost perfectly grasped the intricacies of the Void Ring. Chapter 59, Chapter 58. The Void Ring amazed Fang Mo with its incredible power, just as its name suggested. Through extensive testing, Fang Mo discovered that the Void Ring not only controlled gravity but also had the ability to manipulate other things. One remarkable power was its teleportation ability, which didn't rely on gravity but on a stronger force similar to the Ender Hand Force. After careful consideration, Fang Mo named this power the Void Force Field. With his mastery of gravity manipulation and void walking, Fang Mo became a force to be reckoned with, reminiscent of Pain with Flying Thunder God technique in Naruto. He had exceptional mobility, immense destructive potential, and wielded an indestructible greatsword, making him truly terrifying. Now, Fang Mo eagerly awaited an epic battle as he continued his research on the Void Ring. Meanwhile, Nick Fury returned to the SHIELD base to report the events to his superiors. The alien invasion became the focus of a heated discussion, highlighting its seriousness. Even the most powerful individuals showed moments of foolishness, causing panic. Recognizing the opportunity, Nick Fury proposed his Avengers Initiative. Although the plan had been rejected before, Nick Fury was now fully prepared, and the circumstances had changed. The destructive rampage of the destroyer, captured on video, vividly showcased the horrors of the aliens. With the destruction of the SHIELD base, the threat level had risen significantly. As a result, many senators began to lean towards Nick Fury, and Congress swiftly approved his plan, allowing him to assemble a team to combat the alien menace. With permission granted, Nick Fury wasted no time and took immediate action. He had already made a list of potential team members, personally assessing each one. The list included Tony Stark, Iron Man, Steve Rogers, Captain America, Dr. Bruce Banner, the Hulk, and his capable subordinates, Black Widow Natasha Romanoff and Hawkeye Clint Barton, who were currently under alien control. However, there was one option that required further observation. And that option was Fang Mo. To be honest, aside from Captain Marvel Carol, who could destroy Kree spaceships with her physical body, Fang Mo might be the most powerful extraordinary being Nick Fury had ever encountered. Moreover, Fang Mo's power seemed to be continuously growing. Nevertheless, becoming an Avenger involved more than just having formidable abilities. Fang Mo's peculiar personality posed a real challenge. However, the urgency of the situation required his involvement. After all, nothing could be worse than the world being annihilated, right? Now Nick Fury truly understood the danger posed by the Tesseract. While SHIELD had been studying practical applications of the Tesseract, their knowledge was limited to a few energy weapons. During World War II, the Nazis used its power to create devastating technology that could have destroyed the world. Captain America's intervention had prevented such a catastrophe. How could such a terrifying artifact end up in the wrong hands? Nick Fury's previous statement remained true, he genuinely wanted to entrust the Tesseract to Fang Mo. He also realized that the most dangerous aspect of the Tesseract wasn't its immense internal energy but the risk of it being stolen and used anywhere, at any time. Nuclear bombs themselves weren't terrifying, but the thought of a stolen nuclear bomb being deployed by someone else was undeniably horrifying. Therefore, Nick Fury instructed Natasha to retrieve Dr. Banner, sent Agent Coulson to inform Captain America, and even dispatched agents to contact Thor, who was currently on his honeymoon. As for himself, he headed to Tony Stark's residence. Tony Stark was currently engrossed in his research on a new element, and time was of the essence. He needed to speed up his progress. Luckily, Tony's research speed was impressive. At first, he faced a small setback and appeared somewhat confused while watching a video left by his father, Howard. He was struggling to grasp the main idea. However, Fang Mo's timely call advised him to visit the company for relaxation. At the company, Tony Stark quickly decoded the physical layout diagram of the 1974 World's Fair, leading to a breakthrough. Everything fell into place. According to Nick Fury's plan, everyone gathered at the SHIELD helicarrier. Captain America was the first to arrive, having just woken up with no other commitments. Dr. Banner and Natasha joined shortly after, but Tony Stark, immersed in his new element research, arrived later than expected. Soon, all the Avengers had assembled, except for the unpredictable factor Fang Mo. After thinking for a moment, Nick Fury decided to call Fang Mo directly. Fang Mo answered the call promptly, and his voice came through the phone. "What's happening?" "All the Avengers have arrived, and everyone is waiting for you," Nick Fury informed him over the phone. "But it's Saturday, and I have to cross New York. I'm stuck in traffic here," Fang Mo's casual voice responded. "I might be late." "How much longer?" Nick thought for a moment before asking. "Until Monday." "What? Can't you fly?" Nick Fury felt his blood pressure rise. "Damn it! What time is it, and you're still taking a taxi? Can't I get reimbursed for the taxi fare?" Fang Mo replied through the phone. "Ask the driver for a receipt, and I can pay it back with public funds. Isn't that great? You, a sorcerer knowledgeable in alchemy, and here I am advising you not to flaunt your wealth publicly. Yet, you want SHIELD to reimburse your cab fare." Nick Fury couldn't contain his frustration. "What are you thinking? You don't want the Tesseract anymore." Boom! As soon as those words were spoken, a sudden loud noise came from above, accompanied by blaring alarms. A figure gracefully descended next to Nick Fury, placing a hand on his shoulder. "Relax, mate. I'm here." Chapter 60, Chapter 59. "Didn't you come by taxi?" Nick Fury glanced at the hole in the ceiling, unable to resist asking. Fang Mo spread his hands and retorted, "You said you only consider what I say, and now you believe me? So, when I earlier said that spending an extra 10 minutes in the bathroom would cause the world to end, were you scared shitless? Forget it, consider my question unanswered." Nick Fury rubbed his forehead and turned to walk outside. Fang Mo followed suit, and soon the two arrived at a conference room-like space. As Nick Fury had mentioned, the original Avengers had indeed gathered here, but they were still not very familiar with each other and had not been interacting. Each of them sat alone, lost in thought. "All right, our final member has also arrived." Nick Fury clapped his hands. "But we don't have time for introductions now. Let's discuss how to solve the current crisis. Any suggestions? Perhaps we can try accessing surveillance footage from around the world." Natasha, being a spy, still had that typical spy mindset. If those aliens have a plan, they will undoubtedly leave some traces. "No, that would take too long." Dr. Banner suddenly looked up. "If this thing can really emit gamma rays, maybe we can try using a spectrometer to search for its traces." "Very well." Nick Fury nodded. "It seems we've come up with another solution." "Doctor, how many spectrometers do you need?" "As many as possible." Dr. Banner replied as he took off his jacket. "I have written a program that can capture gamma rays, but I need a place to work and you need to inform the laboratories to place the instruments on the rooftop and calibrate them to the frequency of gamma rays." "No problem." Nick Fury nodded and then directly instructed the nearby agent. "Take Dr. Banner to the laboratory." "Wait, I think I need to confirm something with you first." Dr. Banner didn't leave immediately but stood in place and looked at Nick Fury. "My task is only to help you find that thing, right?" "Of course." Nick Fury nodded. "When it comes to fighting, we have Iron Man, Thor, the Sorcerer, and Captain." "All right." Dr. Banner breathed a sigh of relief, then walked towards the laboratory with the agent. "So, all we can do now is sit here and wait." Tony Stark couldn't help but speak up. "Is there no other option?" "For now, it seems there aren't many other options on the scientific side. Nick Fury replied. The scientific side? Tony Stark turned to look at Fang Mo. So, we're relying on sorcery again. Fang Mo disappointed everyone by shaking his head. Magic won't work this time. Although I can indeed foresee the future, Nick Fury spent an extra 10 minutes in the bathroom this morning, causing disturbances in the timeline and making the future images hazy. You're still doing that? Nick Fury couldn't help but interrupt. All right, let me think. Fang Mo touched his temple, looking thoughtful. I remember aliens did appear, it was in Germany, but which city was it? It seemed to be called Auschwitz. Captain America stood up abruptly upon hearing this, his face filled with shock and disbelief. That damn concentration camp has turned into a city now? Didn't the news say that Germany had surrendered? Captain, don't listen to his nonsense. Nick Fury rubbed his temples with a headache. Fang Mo is just that kind of person, saying whatever comes to mind. Captain America breathed a sigh of relief, but he couldn't help but advise Fang Mo, joking about the victims of the Holocaust is not a good habit. If you experienced what I went through a while ago, you wouldn't say that, Fang Mo joked. I was only minding my own business when suddenly someone shot me in the head. Before Captain America could say anything, Tony Stark interjected, I personally saw the bullet go through his head. Although he didn't die, I suspect his brain suffered irreversible damage because of it. Fang Mo glanced at Tony Stark and then turned his attention back to Captain America. If you used your eloquence on Miss Potts, she probably wouldn't have left angrily, right? Stark was instantly speechless. Thor, who had witnessed the whole process, looked confused. Captain America was about to say something when a special agent suddenly walked in from outside. Sir, we've found the target. The agent held a high-tech screen. The similarity with the target has reached 67%. This sudden interruption drew everyone's attention. Even Fang Mo couldn't help but take a curious glance at the screen. The match is still increasing. The match has now reached 79%. Nick Fury quickly asked, what about the location? Germany, Stuttgart, the agent said, Hanover, no 28. Captain America looked at Fang Mo. Could this guy really possess divination abilities? You see, I said it was Germany, right? Fang Mo shrugged. By the way, where is this Stuttgart? Why don't we just rebuild another Auschwitz? Enough, don't make jokes about that at times like this. Nick Fury interrupted directly. I gathered superheroes, not supervillains. I'm already quite positive. Working hard to bring laughter to everyone, Fang Mo retorted. Perhaps you don't know how terrifying I am. If I were to turn to the dark side, even Joker would have to learn from me. Prepare for takeoff. Nick Fury gave the command. Head to the target location. Chapter 61, Chapter 60. Due to the slow speed of the helicarrier in the sky, the group decided to proceed to the target location using the Quinjet. After a discussion, the capture team members were chosen, Captain America, Thor, Fang Mo, and Natasha, who would pilot the jet. Tony Stark initially wanted to join them, but the current situation was different from the original story. After consuming the golden apple, he had been dealing with the side effects of the palladium reactor. Eventually, Fang Mo had to assist him with detoxification. Once he returned home, he would have to study the new element model left by his father. Tony was mentally and physically exhausted after the recent events and planned to rest on the carrier for a while. In terms of combat power, Fang Mo alone was sufficient to handle the situation, especially with the assistance of Thor, the Norse god of thunder, and Natasha and Captain America, who were familiar with the circumstances. They didn't expect any major problems. The Quinjet swiftly arrived at the destination, which was Stuttgart. A high-profile social dinner party was taking place there, but chaos had engulfed the area due to the presence of aliens. A high-ranking military officer, whose affiliation was unknown, was knocked down to the ground. Then, a nimble masked woman wreaked havoc, creating a scene of extreme brutality with blood flowing everywhere. Unlike Loki in the original story, this masked woman didn't deliver any absurd speeches about people craving enslavement or giving up false freedom. In fact, she didn't utter a single extra word. Natasha, flying over the banquet in the Quinjet, witnessed the situation below. Upon seeing the chaos, Captain America leaped out of the plane without hesitation, throwing his shield at the opponent. However, the woman displayed exceptional combat reflexes and swiftly evaded Captain America's shield with a sidestep, To her surprise, the shield hit a wall behind her with a bang, bouncing back and staggering her. Your plan ends here. Captain America charged directly at the opponent, speaking with determination. The woman quickly stood up and drew two short swords from her waist, fearlessly facing Captain America. Fang Mo, in the Quinjet, was slightly taken aback when he saw the two short swords. What's wrong? Thor noticed Fang Mo's reaction and turned his head to ask. Do you know that person? I'm not entirely sure, Fang Mo shook his head, but let's go down and take a look. Meanwhile, Captain America and the woman engaged in a fierce fight. The opponent proved to be strong, matching Captain America's physical abilities. Their swords moved swiftly and cunningly, resulting in a temporary stalemate. Suddenly, a voice echoed. Almighty pull. Bansho Tenin. TL, I think I change it to universal pull in later chapters LOL. A powerful suction force emerged, uncontrollably lifting the woman holding the short swords into the air. Captain America was stunned as the enemy was abruptly lifted skyward. When he turned his head to the side, he saw Fang Mo gripping the woman's neck with one hand. Seizing the opportunity, Fang Mo couldn't resist expressing himself, I've been wanting to shout these Chiyunibyo lines for a long time. Holding the enemy's neck, Fang Mo exclaimed, so damn satisfying. The opponent couldn't understand Fang Mo's Chiyunibyo heart. Seeing that struggling was futile, the opponent raised a dagger and stabbed Fang Mo's chest. However, the dagger hit Fang Mo's body with a clang sound, breaking and spinning before flying away. The opponent stood there, stunned by the unexpected outcome. Why is your little knife weaker than Loki's? Fang Mo sarcastically commented with a smile. He then waved his hand, sending the opponent flying like a torn sack. The enemy crashed into the exterior wall of a nearby building, bounced into a flower bed, rolled twice, and finally came to a stop. Reacting swiftly, Captain America rushed forward, using his shield to block the opponent's neck, preventing any sudden escape. The playtime is over. It's time for me to see your true identity, Captain America declared. Fang Mo slowly walked over, tore off the opponent's mask, and revealed a jade-green face, catching their attention. What? Fang Mo was momentarily stunned when he saw the opponent's true identity. Gamera. Indeed, the person pinned down by Captain America's shield was Gamera, a member of the future Guardians of the Galaxy and Peter Quill's girlfriend. She was also the beloved daughter of Thanos, who sacrificed her life to obtain the Soul Stone in the original Avengers, Infinity War. But why was she on Earth? Fang Mo was confused. Do you know her? Captain America asked curiously when Fang Mo mentioned the opponent's name. I know her, but not well. Fang Mo rubbed his temples, feeling a headache coming on. Anyway, let's take her back first. Gamera had already passed out after being thrown by Fang Mo. However, it's worth mentioning that she didn't have the Space Stone or the Mind Stone with her. This was peculiar. But there was no way to interrogate her at the moment. Fang Mo raised his hand, and a large chunk of asphalt road broke apart and floated, carrying Gamera back to the plane. Upon returning to the spaceship, Captain America provided a brief explanation of the earlier situation. Fang Mo mentioned that he seemed to know the opponent, which piqued Natasha and Thor's interest. It was understandable for Natasha, being a spy whose job involved gathering information, but it was somewhat unexpected for Thor. However, Thor explained that an alien invasion on Midgard was a challenge to Asgard publicly. As a prince, it was his responsibility to handle such matters. Thus, the group shared the information they had gathered. Natasha explained the incident involving Nick Fury's attack, Thor shared details about alien civilizations, and Fang Mo mentioned Gamera's adoptive daughter status under a certain cosmic titan. However, during the exchange, they quickly noticed a problem. When Nick Fury was attacked, Hawkeye had already been controlled by the aliens and was temporarily acting as a traitor. However, Hawkeye had witnessed Fang Mo's destructive capabilities when he obliterated the destroyer in the Old Town. This meant the enemy was aware of Fang Mo's ferocity. Yet, Gamera arrived alone. She hadn't arranged for any backup, nor did she carry the Mind Stone. It was as if she came willingly to face them. This logic simply made no sense, right? Chapter 62, Chapter 61. Before anyone could fully comprehend the situation, the Quinjet swiftly descended and returned to the helicarrier's hangar. Recognizing their lack of options, the group set aside their doubts and escorted the unconscious Gamera back for further assessment. Just like in the original story, Gamera was held in a round glass prison located in the helicarrier's lowest level. The prison had a movable hatch beneath it designed for emergency drops from high altitudes. Though mainly used for temporary alien containment, it proved useful in their current predicament. The immediate concern was that they had captured an alien successfully, but the Tesseract remained missing. Additionally, Agent Barton and Dr. Selvig were nowhere to be found, further complicating matters. With Gamera severely injured and unconscious, the priority shifted to awakening her. Upon hearing Captain America and Natasha's report, Nick Fury sensed that something was amiss. It seemed their enemies had intentionally exposed themselves to gain his attention. In response, Nick Fury took two actions: awakening Gamera for interrogation and assigning Dr. Banner to use gamma radiation to track the Tesseract's whereabouts. Gamera had suffered severe injuries, including multiple fractures, brain stem damage, and internal bleeding. In normal circumstances, these injuries would require immediate resuscitation in an intensive care unit. However, Gamera's alien physiology provided her with a higher level of physical resilience, barely keeping her alive. Nevertheless, awakening her proved to be a challenging task. In this critical situation, Nick Fury immediately thought of Fang Mo. "Do you still have that miraculous healing potion?" Nick Fury wasted no time seeking assistance from Fang Mo. "I do," Fang Mo replied without hesitation, "but what do you plan to offer me in return this time?" "Offer you?" Nick Fury was taken aback. "Yes," Fang Mo shrugged, "I already gave you a vial to save your life, didn't I? That vial was exchanged for the Tesseract. Now you're asking for another vial. What does S.H.I.E.L.D. plan to offer in return? At a time when aliens have invaded Earth, can't you show some concern for the crisis?" Nick Fury couldn't help but respond, "At this crucial moment, where do you expect me to find something? I can't even gather $9.9 billion, let alone an object. Should I hand over S.H.I.E.L.D. to you?" "Keep your old, worn-out S.H.I.E.L.D., Fang Mo retorted dismissively. "What do you truly want, then?" Nick Fury rubbed his forehead and said, "Aren't you the technical advisor of S.H.I.E.L.D. now? I'm not asking you to do the same as our agents. We are all focused on fighting the external enemy now. Can't you contribute a little? Have you ever seen an employee pay their boss out of their own pocket?" Fang Mo retorted, "Or should I directly offer you 19 tons of gold?" All right. Look at your pitiful face of a pauper." Without waiting for Nick Fury to respond, Fang Mo waved his hand and said, "Since you seem to be quite poor, I'll find the payment from the loot myself." "Loot?" Nick Fury inquired, his curiosity piqued. "Do you mean that alien?" "The staff," Fang Mo replied directly, "as a sorcerer, it's only natural for me to require a staff, right? Otherwise, it would be embarrassing to visit neighboring Hogwarts. The Death Eaters can simply use Avada Kedavra with a wave of their hand, but what about me? I can't just retaliate with my sword, can I?" "Are you referring to the staff that controls the SHIELD agents?" Nick Fury unconsciously frowned. "That thing is too dangerous. I think you're falling into the same old habits, aren't you?" Fang Mo interrupted, "You're thinking of using it to develop secret weapons again? It seems like you need something as significant as the Tesseract to convince yourself to destroy all these dangerous items." "I don't plan on developing secret weapons anymore," Nick Fury asserted, "and I do want to destroy it. After the incident with the Tesseract, I've realized that humans are unable to control the power of such artifacts. Both options involve destruction, so why not let me take it out of this world?" Fang Mo suggested with a shrug. "Are you sure you won't use it?" Nick Fury questioned seriously, "Or rather, you have to convince me, make me believe that you won't use it." "I am a devoted warrior, and I don't rely on mind control tricks," Fang Mo impatiently replied. "Is that enough? A person may lie, but their character cannot deceive." Nick Fury stared at Fang Mo for a moment before finally relenting. "Fine. Take it quickly," Fang Mo said, tossing a bottle of healing potion to Nick. Nick swiftly caught it and noticed something peculiar. "Hey? This potion seems different from the one you gave to Stark. Is it a different formula?" "Stark is my good friend, so I naturally used the most expensive potion for him," Fang Mo waved his hand and explained. "For someone like Gamera, a green-skinned alien, I'm not interested. Who knows if she comes from the warmer world? Anyway, she has strong vitality, so just give her some healing potion. Nothing fancy is needed." Fang Mo's statement held no falsehoods. In the Minecraft world, alchemy operated on different tiers. A potion of regeneration required ghast tears as an ingredient, and ghasts were known to be elusive. They floated above lava lakes and were challenging to kill. Even if one managed to defeat them, their drops often fell into lava, necessitating the use of a fishing rod to retrieve them. Moreover, their spawn rates were low, making the materials quite precious. However, healing potions were different. They only required a melon and a small piece of gold as ingredients, making them relatively inexpensive. When Fang Mo performed surgery on Stark, he required a potion with a prolonged regeneration effect, allowing enough time to replace all of Stark's body parts. Thus, he primarily used regeneration potions. The instant healing potion was only used when he was concerned about complications during heart surgery. After all, healing potions worked instantly and were more suitable for emergencies. With the potion in his possession, Nick Fury promptly made his way to the cell. Fang Mo followed suit. Since the Mind Stone was no longer on the helicarrier, the Avengers team members likely wouldn't have internal conflicts. Rather than waiting for something unattainable, it was better to find out what had transpired with Gamera. While Gamera was a formidable cosmic warrior trained by Thanos, it was generally challenging to make her talk. But Fang Mo was no ordinary individual. He possessed his own methods to extract the truth. However, to Fang Mo's surprise, as soon as Nick finished administering the healing potion to Gamera, and she regained consciousness, she immediately surrendered. "Please stop, Nebula. She's planning to summon an army to destroy your planet." Chapter 63, Chapter 62. "Please calm down, ma'am," Nick Fury said, trying to soothe Gamera's anxiety. Nick Fury immediately started questioning Gamera. "First, you need to clarify who you mean by Nebula. Are you referring to your blue-skinned companion? Where is she?" "Yes, it's her," Gamera replied. "She has a powerful cosmic army at her command, capable of effortlessly destroying your planet. You must find a way to stop her. But right now, I don't know where she is either." "Well, that's bad news," Nick Fury responded calmly, demonstrating his leadership as the head of SHIELD. "However, I must remind you, ma'am, that you previously attempted to harm me with a knife. So, given your past actions, I am more inclined to believe that you have ulterior motives unless you can provide convincing evidence." "Nebula is my sister, but she attacked me under her control," Gamera explained, covering her head and trembling. "I was terrified. It's like being pushed aside while someone else takes control. I could only watch as everything unfolded." "What she said may be true," Fang Mo interrupted before Nick could respond. Surprised, both Nick Fury and Gamera, who was locked in a glass cell, turned their attention to Fang Mo. Fang Mo explained that she is Thanos' daughter, but they are no longer on the same side, Fang Mo clarified to Nick Fury. "Who is Thanos?" Nick asked. "He's a crazy purple potato," Fang Mo waved dismissively. "In short, he's a universal tyrant who wants to eliminate half of the universe's population to preserve resources he claims as his own." "A universal tyrant, hey?" Nick Fury sighed and rubbed his forehead. "But from what you're saying, this guy is indeed insane. So, he's targeting Earth now?" "More or less," Fang Mo shrugged. "Remember what I told you before? Earth is too enticing and attracts the attention of extraterrestrials. So, he's sending an army to Earth." Nick Fury furrowed his brow. "How powerful is this army? How large is their force? When will they arrive?" "It's a force that you absolutely cannot resist," Gamera interrupted from inside the glass cell. "The army is from the planet Chitauri, and their numbers are practically endless. They have faithfully destroyed countless planets for Thanos. Your Earthlings won't be able to stop them." "So, you stole the Tesseract to open the portal, right?" Nick Fury asked. "I received intelligence that a military laboratory was attacked, and some vibranium was stolen. I assume it was for the portal. Otherwise, you wouldn't have captured Dr. Selvig." "I don't know. Nebula didn't tell me those things," Gamera replied. "I didn't expect Nebula to suddenly attack me either. Maybe she was too eager to gain Thanos' approval. Our mission was only to steal the Tesseract, and the Chitauri army was just for support. But Nebula wanted to present the Tesseract to Thanos while simultaneously slaughtering half of Earth's population to please him." "Your mission was to steal the Tesseract." Nick's gaze hardened as he made a realization. "It's the Space Stone," Fang Mo explained. "Didn't I tell you before? There are 5 of these incredible objects in the universe. The aliens initially didn't know the Tesseract was here, but you kept experimenting with it, emitting frequencies that attracted trouble. I understand roughly, Nick Fury nodded. So this guy, Thanos, wants to collect these objects and sent them to steal the Space Stone. But for some reason, these two fellows started fighting each other. One of them just wants to steal the Space Stone and offer it to their master, while the other wants to steal the Space Stone and destroy the Earth to please their crazy master. Am I right? Before we continue, let me make it clear that my purpose in stealing the Space Stone is not to give it to Thanos, Gamera quickly clarified. I have long been dissatisfied with his cruel ideology. I took the task of stealing the Space Stone voluntarily, with the goal of obtaining it and escaping from him forever. But I didn't expect Nebula to come after me. Escape from him? Nick Fury questioned. The Space Stone grants the user the ability to control space, Fang Mo explained. With the right coordinates, one can teleport to any place in the universe. Why should I trust you? Nick Fury glanced at Fang Mo. You yourself said she is Thanos' daughter. She was adopted, Fang Mo shrugged. Thanos killed her entire family when she was a child, and then he wiped out her planet. That means I can't fully trust her either, Nick Fury concluded. Despite their skepticism, the group managed to gather a lot of information from Gamera about the Chitauri army, Thanos, and Nebula. Learning about an impending alien invasion of Earth, everyone became tense. Tony and Dr. Banner analyzed the research data provided by Nick Fury on the Tesseract and Vibranium. They concluded that Vibranium could be used as a catalyst to stabilize the structure and scale of the teleportation portal. However, activating this element required extremely high temperatures of at least 1 billion degrees. The group narrowed down their search to nuclear reactors worldwide, as only a nuclear reactor could generate such high temperatures. They focused their efforts on locating suitable reactors but knew it would take some time to find clues. Captain America, unable to contribute much to the technical matters, could only wait patiently. Thor, driven by his connection to Asgard, interrogated Gamera about Thanos. Natasha, skilled in interrogation, joined him as she felt her expertise would be more useful than staying in the laboratory. In the meantime, Dr. Banner noticed that Tony Stark seemed to be up to something. Wait, Tony, Dr. Banner questioned, the program I gave you wasn't supposed to be like this. What's with this database? Wait a minute. Are you hacking into s.h.i.e.l.ds intranet? Dr. Banner asked, realizing Tony's actions. Chapter 64, Chapter 63. Are you infiltrating s.h.i.e.l.ds internal network? Dr. Banner stared at Tony Stark in surprise. Tony, why would you do that? What did you say? Captain America stood up and walked towards Tony Stark upon hearing Dr. Banner's remark. Mr. Stark, it's time for us to unite. You should focus on doing what's right. Sorry, Captain. Tony Stark had his own thoughts. He pulled out a bag of snacks and started munching, offering, I'm not some old soldier who blindly follows orders. Want some? Captain America remained silent, staring at Tony. Fine. Tony put away the snacks and turned to Dr. Banner. Dr. Banner, don't you find it strange? Well. Dr. Banner hesitated for a moment, then removed his glasses with a wry smile. Please spare me. I just want to end all this as soon as possible. Don't ask me serious questions like that. I don't want to talk about it. Do you also think there's a problem, Doctor? Captain America also sensed something amiss. He was traditional and conservative, but he wasn't foolish. At least he was willing to trust Dr. Banner. Can you shed some light on it? All right. Dr. Banner sighed helplessly and then became serious. Captain, how do you perceive the Tesseract? The source of disaster, Captain America responded without hesitation. The Red Skull used it as an energy weapon, nearly destroying the entire Earth. I wish that thing could remain at the bottom of the ocean forever, just like me. Howard shouldn't have salvaged it. Oh, by the way, Howard happens to be my father. Tony Stark spoke up. I didn't expect that my father used to be your colleague. Howard was a truly remarkable man. Captain America clearly didn't hold much affection for Tony. As his child, you should learn more from him. Now is not the time to discuss these matters, Captain. Tony Stark dismissed the topic and locked eyes with Captain America. Nick Fury informed me that my father was one of the founders of SHIELD, and he recovered the Tesseract from the Atlantic Ocean. So, why didn't he tell me about his private research on the Tesseract? Perhaps you weren't considered worthy, Captain America suggested. I'm also a genius, Captain. Tony said seriously. Do you know how much money the military wanted to pay for my armor? They only need a small palladium reactor to power them, and they can even be unmanned. Is manufacturing weapons a noble endeavor? Captain America frowned. Weapons are only necessary during times of war, but the world is at peace now. You're right, that's what I wanted to say. After hearing Captain America's statement, Tony Stark snapped his fingers. Captain, Nick Fury is a spy. He's the king of agents. How many secrets do you think he's hiding? If he had nothing to hide, why did we only find out about the Tesseract now? If the aliens hadn't invaded, would we even know about it? But our current enemy is extraterrestrial. Captain America hesitated for a moment, then took a deep breath and firmly said, for now, we should follow orders. I'm not a soldier, Captain, Tony shook his head. But I think you said something right. The Tesseract should indeed remain at the bottom of the Atlantic. JARVIS is currently deciphering S.H.I.E.L.D's internal network, and it won't be long before we uncover all of Nick's secrets. All we have to do now is wait. Captain, when I was last in New York, I heard there's a massive green creature there. They said it was a monster created by the military, and it was that sorcerer who helped resolve the situation. Dr. Banner chimed in at the right moment, Captain, they never stopped manufacturing weapons. Captain America fell silent. Soon, he left the lab without uttering a word. Just as Captain America left, Fang Mo entered the room, humming a tune and carrying a steaming metal bucket. What do you have there? Tony Stark asked, feeling somewhat perplexed. It's milk, Fang Mo explained. Specially brought from my world. It's incredibly fresh. I had the chef warm it up a bit. Want to try some? Now everyone is busy fighting aliens, and you went to warm up milk. Tony couldn't help but comment. Are all you sorcerers peculiar like this? Do you want to have a taste? Fang Mo smiled, scooping out a cup. No, thanks, Tony turned his head haughtily. If you were pouring a glass of whiskey, I might have been interested. Milk, pfft, it's just a child's drink. You don't want it. Fang Mo smiled. All right then. What are you going to do? Tony Stark suddenly felt something was amiss. I just remembered that there might still be some palladium in your body that hasn't been fully removed, Fang Mo said slowly, pulling out the cleaver from behind him. Normally, milk helps metabolize heavy metals, but since you don't want to drink it, well, I suppose I'll reluctantly scrape them out for you. Wait, wait. Tony quickly raised his hand. I was just joking. Hurry up and pour me a glass to taste. Drinking milk is a great thing, after all. That's more like it. Fang Mo happily handed him a glass of milk. However, in the next moment, he shifted his gaze to Dr. Banner, who looked bewildered next to him. Doctor, would you like a glass too? Dr. Banner hesitated. Or should the Hulk have a glass? Fang Mo inquired. Dr. Banner glanced at Fang Mo, then at the enormous purple cleaver he somehow produced, and decisively chose to surrender. Okay, please give me a glass of milk. So Fang Mo happily scooped a glass of milk and handed it over. Observing this scene, Tony discreetly rolled his eyes where Fang Mo couldn't see him. Honestly, he wasn't particularly interested in milk. Whiskey and sports cars were the true essence of manly indulgence. However, amidst the ongoing crisis, there was no need for Iron Man to engage in pointless disputes with his teammates over such a trivial matter. After all, milk couldn't be worse than chlorophyll, right? But the moment Tony took his first sip of milk, a rich aroma enveloped his mouth. It was an unparalleled tenderness, sweetness, and richness. Even the world's wealthiest man couldn't help but reveal a surprised expression in that moment. Delicious. Dr. Banner, on the other hand, had the same expression. Wow, this is simply the best milk I've ever tasted. Mr. Fang Mo, could this be milk squeezed from a magical cow? In a way, you could consider it magic cow milk, Fang Mo shrugged. In the world of Minecraft, cows could produce an infinite amount of milk as long as you had enough buckets or other containers. It was absurdly abundant, and Minecraft cows could single-handedly dominate the global dairy industry, boasting surprisingly delightful taste. In fact, this could also be considered one of Fang Mo's tested Stand abilities. Regardless of the food or drink, once Fang Mo brought something from the Minecraft world into reality, its taste would always be exceptional. Even a simple baked potato, once brought into reality, became filled with rich potato flavor, crispy and delicious. By the way, what were you researching? Fang Mo poured himself a glass of milk and inquired, while taking a sip. I saw you, Tony, working on something on the computer earlier. I wasn't working on anything significant, just browsing, random stuff. Tony Stark hesitated, glancing at Fang Mo. He wasn't sure if he should share the information with him. After all, Fang Mo seemed to be acquainted with Nick Fury. What if they were both involved? Surprisingly, Fang Mo could sense Tony's hesitation. You're hacking into S.H.I.E.L.D's internal network, aren't you? Do you understand technology? Are you a scientist? Tony was taken aback but quickly retorted, even using Fang Mo's own words against him. Dr. Banner and I hold multiple doctoral degrees. What could a sorcerer like you possibly know about computers? I'm merely enhancing the gamma ray search program. It's a newly developed Alpha Mega Ultra program. I can see the future, Fang Mo calmly stated, looking directly at Tony. I don't believe you. Tony was a staunch believer in science. After a brief pause, he stubbornly stood his ground. Apart from Laplace's demon, nothing else can accurately predict future events. So, you guys want to know what Nick Fury is concealing, right? Fang Mo continued nonchalantly, disregarding the tense atmosphere. Well, he has been conducting research on energy weapons. From individual combat to large-scale weapons of mass destruction. Ever since Howard acquired the Tesseract, their research on it has never ceased. And there's something about mutants and the Infinity Stones. In short, he's harboring numerous secrets from you all. Just as Fang Mo finished speaking, the sound of footsteps approached the door. Soon, Nick Fury entered, pushing it open. I heard from the chef that you just warmed up a bucket of milk, filling the whole corridor with a delightful aroma, Nick Fury casually remarked, placing a stack of documents on the table. Give me a glass too. Fang Mo nodded and handed a glass of milk to Nick Fury. This milk tastes really good. Nick Fury's eyes lit up, clearly relishing the unique flavor of Minecraft milk. He drank it while asking, by the way, what were you guys discussing just now? Oh, I was simply informing them that SHIELD is covertly developing weapons of mass destruction, Fang Mo cheerfully replied. Chapter 65, Chapter 64. When Fang Mo's words reached Nick Fury's ears, he nearly spat out the milk he was drinking. Looks like they're not together, observed Dr. Banner, glancing at Tony. Our sorcerer friend doesn't seem too thrilled about it either, I suppose. I think he just doesn't care, replied Tony Stark. Tony, Bruce, there might be some misunderstandings here, Nick Fury said, rubbing his temples with a headache. Feeling betrayed by Fang Mo, he continued, you should know Fang Mo's personality. He even makes jokes about Nazis, so it's better not to take his words too seriously. Is that so? Tony raised an eyebrow. Suddenly, Captain America burst into the room, slamming an energy weapon on the table with a loud noise. He exclaimed, explain how this thing works. Captain, I didn't authorize access to the arsenal. Nick Fury responded immediately. Someone suggested it to me, Captain America calmly explained. Guess being an old-fashioned soldier isn't popular anymore. Thanks to the captain, we now have solid evidence. Tony stood up slowly from his chair. So, Director Red Skull, care to explain anything else? Please don't compare me to a Nazi war criminal, Nick Fury pleaded. But what you've done isn't any different, Captain America said directly. I thought the world was changing for the better when I saw what was broadcasted on TV, but now it seems, nothing has changed. Misinformation is a real problem, added Fang Mo casually. What's going on? Thor and Natasha entered the room quickly, likely drawn by the argument. SHIELD is using the Tesseract to develop weapons of mass destruction, Dr. Banner confronted Natasha. Agent Natasha, I assume you know about this, right? Let's not argue about it, Bruce. We need to stay calm, Natasha calmly advised. I don't have all the information, but fighting among ourselves won't help. Of course, I'll try to stay calm, Dr. Banner said. But right now, I need some answers. Oh, and so do I, Tony chimed in. I'd really like to know if SHIELD would have continued studying the Tesseract and building spaceships if this incident hadn't happened. They've already been working on it, Fang Mo interjected, seemingly unconcerned about the seriousness of the situation. Project Pegasus involves studying spacecraft powered by the Tesseract's energy. They even brought aliens into the experiment. Motherfucker. Can you please keep quiet for a moment? Nick Fury, feeling his head about to explode, quickly said to Fang Mo. Did he say something wrong? Dr. Banner couldn't help but ask. I can't believe what you've done. Maybe you're even more involved with the Tesseract than Red Skull. Let's stop mentioning Red Skull, Nick Fury took a deep breath and requested. Okay, let's continue talking about the Tesseract. Nick Fury paused for a moment and then suddenly pointed at Thor beside him. Okay, I admit, it's all because of him. Hey! Thor, who was observing the situation, was taken aback. How did he end up being blamed? We recently had an alien visitor, Nick Fury continued, ignoring Thor's confusion. Thanks to our advisor Fang Mo's help, we prevented a disaster when that strange armor attacked the town. It made me realize that humans are not alone. Wait, let me interrupt you. Tony said, according to Fang Mo, you've been researching energy weapons long before. We encountered aliens during the Pegasus project, Nick Fury said sternly. They're called the Kree, an alien race with advanced technology capable of destroying Earth. I must find a way to bridge this gap. It was your experiments with the Tesseract that caught the attention of the aliens. Hearing this, Thor couldn't help but speak up. I asked the alien named Gamera about it. According to her, your experiments activated the Tesseract's energy frequency, sending signals throughout the universe, as if inviting other civilizations to wage war with Earth. What can we do about it? Nick Fury countered, the alien threat is imminent. We can't just sit and wait. We have to find a way to deal with it. Like nuclear deterrence. Tony sneered. I should have known. This isn't the first time you've done something like this. Do I need to remind you of what Stark Industries used to do? Nick Fury turned to Tony. Amidst the rising tension and mutual distrust among the team members, a scene similar to the original story unfolded. Everyone felt dissatisfied, and in the midst of an impending alien invasion, these grievances grew into restlessness and anxiety, leading to blame being placed on each other. Meanwhile, Fang Mo enjoyed the spectacle. As accusations and revelations of untold secrets unfolded, such as Tony's childhood antics or Banner's heart-wrenching love story with Betty, a fighter jet suddenly appeared and approached the helicarrier. In the next moment, a massive explosion rocked the cabin, engulfing it in flames. Glass shattered, and the shockwave sent everyone flying. The helicarrier was under attack, alarms blaring, and the entire crew on high alert. Thor, being the most physically capable, quickly reacted. Realizing they were being invaded, he rushed towards the glass cell to prevent the enemy from rescuing the hostages. Tony and Captain America swiftly understood the situation and prepared to retrieve their weapons, the shield and the armor suit, respectively. Natasha and Dr. Banner, on the other hand, fell into the equipment compartment below the lab. Natasha intended to inform Nick Fury of their safety through her earpiece, but when she turned around, she saw Dr. Banner's muscles bulging and a terrifying green hue spreading across his body. Witnessing Dr. Banner's transformation, Natasha's heart skipped a beat. Soon, Banner fully transformed into the Hulk, roaring in anger and demolishing everything around him. However, after smashing a few objects, he suddenly seemed to sense something and locked his gaze on Natasha. But before Natasha could react, a figure descended from the gaping hole above. Well, isn't this Hulk? Chapter 66, Chapter 65. Hey, isn't this Hulk? Fang Mo greeted Hulk as they landed. Long time no see. How's Betty? Hulk recognized Fang Mo as the person who had helped him in the past and saved Betty. Hulk started to see Fang Mo as a trustworthy individual. Lowering his fist, Hulk's anger resurfaced as he thought of General Ross, Betty's father, who always kept them apart. With a roar, Hulk expressed his frustration by smashing a nearby metal wall, creating a large pit. You seem upset, Fang Mo observed, undeterred by Hulk's anger. He pretended to ponder before having a sudden realization. I've got it. It must be General Ross. Ross. Hulk became even angrier upon hearing the name. He grabbed a nearby giant piece of metal and smashed it, causing destruction and sparks to fly. Or, should I help you find a solution? Fang Mo probed, intentionally. Hulk remained silent, looking at Fang Mo with confusion. Well, there's this person named Motherfucker who formed a league to gather powerful individuals and protect the Earth, Fang Mo explained, rubbing his chin. But there's a problem. The members of this league are weak, and they urgently need a strong leader. Hulk seemed puzzled, not understanding the connection to Betty. This motherfucker is actually the director of SHIELD, and he's at odds with the military, where Ross belongs, Fang Mo continued. They're enemies. Motherfucker announced that he's willing to help the qualified leader of the team, even if it means dealing with Ross. Do you understand? Hulk nodded, realizing the situation. But let me tell you, being a leader is not easy, Fang Mo cautioned, looking at Hulk seriously. A leader is the most powerful and capable person who takes responsibility for protecting the Earth and humanity. It's a challenging task. However, if someone can accomplish it, they'll be seen as a powerful, awe-inspiring, and heroic figure. They'll be respected, supported, and admired by others. Also, there will be recognition for the leader, with statues built in their honor, and they'll receive admiration from beautiful individuals like Betty. They'll receive requests for autographs, flowers, and photo opportunities. Hulk. Strong. Hearing Fang Mo's words, Hulk became intrigued. He patted his chest excitedly and declared, "Leader." Hulk. Natasha, witnessing the whole interaction, was completely stunned. How did Fang Mo manage to manipulate the Hulk, a mighty powerhouse capable of inflicting massive damage? And what was that name he called the SHIELD director? Do you want to be the leader? Fang Mo asked, satisfied that Hulk took the bait. With your strength and appearance, impressive eyebrows and eyes, you're definitely qualified. But, well. Hulk grew impatient, having just controlled his anger and refrained from attacking Fang Mo. To be a leader, don't you think it's important for the other team members to respect and accept you? Fang Mo shrugged and pointed to Natasha on the ground. Let me introduce her. This is Natasha, also known as Black Widow. She's one of the weaker members, but she's a beauty. She got pinned down by debris from the explosion just now. Why don't you help her and see if you can earn her trust? Hulk looked down and curiously observed Natasha. She was indeed trapped by a steel pipe. Although it seemed light to Hulk, it completely immobilized her. For a moment, Hulk thought she seemed really weak. With that in mind, Hulk walked over and effortlessly removed the steel pipe and debris with one hand. After doing so, Hulk shouted at Natasha. Hulk, be leader. Natasha, Hulk just saved you. Will you let Hulk be the leader of the team? Fang Mo said to Natasha, intentionally. You can't lie, or he might get super angry and cause destruction. Thank you for saving me, leader. Natasha, an experienced actress, played her part. Despite her physical age not being much different from Captain America's, she fully immersed herself in the role. I can't imagine what would have happened if you hadn't been here. I would probably have been stuck here waiting for help. By saying this, Natasha acknowledged Hulk's position, and Hulk immediately smiled, resembling a happy, 3-meter-tall child. But in the next second, the entire cabin shook violently. The source of the explosion was unclear. Hulk grew angry again upon seeing this and looked around furiously. However, that was just Hulk's nature. In Thor, Ragnarok, he mentioned being always angry without a specific reason. It was likely due to the influence of gamma radiation, similar to a human's fight or flight response. If there was nothing particular to be angry about, Hulk would simply get angry. After all, the angrier Hulk became, the stronger he grew. You see, Hulk. Fang Mo spread his hands helplessly as the cabin shook. Didn't I tell you they needed a leader? The moment the enemy attacked, they fell into chaos. It's clear they need someone to take charge. Hulk, go. Hearing Fang Mo's words, Hulk excitedly shouted and rushed toward the direction of the explosion. He didn't bother with doors, using his head to smash a hole in the wall, and continued running without looking back. He truly is a brute, just like me. He doesn't like using doors. Interesting, interesting, Fang Mo commented. Then he called out to Natasha, all right, stop standing there foolishly. Hurry and calm the Hulk. Calm the Hulk. Natasha was taken aback. Hulk, Fang Mo reminded her. Don't you like calming down volatile situations? Look at Hulk. Isn't this green, slobbering force adorable? Natasha began to respond. In any case, I advise you to quickly inform the others and play along to maintain peace. Before Natasha could say anything, there was a loud bang. Hulk's enormous figure was sent flying like a projectile and crashed heavily into a large metal cabinet. Electric arcs danced around him. Then, Thor in his battle armor flew out of the hole, landed on the ground, and shouted, "Where did this damn monster come from? Are you two okay?" Chapter 67, Chapter 66. Observing Thor's actions, Natasha couldn't help but face palm. What's wrong? Thor was still oblivious to his actions. He held his hammer and asked with a puzzled look, "Why are you two looking at me like that? Is there something on my face?" "It looks like you have the word idiot written on your forehead," Fang Mo casually remarked. "What?" Thor was clearly confused as well. However, before he could seek clarification, a roar erupted, and Hulk angrily stood up, charging towards Thor like a wild beast. In the original story, Thor and the Hulk were archenemies. They had clashed numerous times, but in Thor 3, the Hulk wasn't a match for Thor. Thor's awakening as the King of Gods played a role in this, but it was also because Hulk had spent considerable time in the outside world, becoming less prone to anger. However, at this moment, it was still far from Ragnarok, and Hulk could barely speak coherently. His anger was overpowering. On the other hand, Thor wielded his hammer. While it was a weapon, it was also a restraint given to him by Odin. If Thor could defeat the Hulk in this exchange, it would be nothing short of miraculous. The two adversaries clashed for less than 3 rounds before Hulk grabbed Thor's legs, smashing him around. As Thor was being pummeled, he began questioning his life choices. This alien was unbelievably strong. Gamera, the woman he had encountered earlier, was weak in comparison, so why were her kin so ridiculously powerful? Thor, with his single-mindedness, still hadn't realized the truth. He believed Hulk was some kind of reinforcement sent by the enemy. After all, both Gamera and Hulk were green. Unable to bear watching any longer, Fang Mo intervened. "All right, Hulk, calm down for now." Raising his hand, Fang Mo activated his powers, suspending Hulk and Thor on opposite sides. Hulk clearly hadn't had enough. He struggled in midair, growling angrily at Thor, but there was no focal point for him to exert force. "Let me introduce you to each other," Fang Mo said, pointing to Thor. "He is Thor, the current leader of the Avengers. He believes he is very powerful and wants to be the boss." Then, he pointed to Hulk on the other side. "This is Hulk, Dr. Banner's alter ego." Fang Mo winked at Thor and added, "In short, this big guy with a bad temper just woke up and is very interested in the title of Strongest Avenger. Let me speak on his behalf. Anyone who tries to stop him from becoming the boss will be crushed by him. I hope you all understand, okay?" Roar. In sync with Fang Mo's words, Hulk let out a vigorous roar. Thor's brain seemed to be lacking, or perhaps he was a bit disoriented from the beating. After a moment of bewilderment, he directly asked, "What did you say? Shouldn't the strongest Avenger be me? I am the son of Odin, the king of Asgard." As soon as he finished speaking, the entire scene fell into an eerie silence. Not only Hulk, even Natasha stared at him speechlessly. "With your intelligence alone, it's hard for me to work for you." Fang Mo rubbed his temples, sighing helplessly. "Why doesn't Loki share half of his brain with you? The Asgardians never stoop low to use deceitful schemes," Thor proudly declared. "This is the glory of the gods." "Fine, do as you please." Fang Mo spread his hands, realizing it was difficult to advise stubborn fools. He cancelled the force field and turned to walk towards the cabin door. Natasha hurriedly followed suit. Before long, a deafening roar shook the surroundings. Due to the enemy invasion, chaos engulfed the entire helicarrier. After leaving the equipment compartment, Fang Mo and Natasha soon encountered a busy and anxious Nick Fury. They saw him constantly issuing commands over the radio. "Stark, the left turbine has malfunctioned. If we lose another turbine, we'll plummet from the sky." "Hey, always busy, aren't you?" Fang Mo greeted Nick Fury with a smile. "You?" Nick Fury started getting a headache as soon as he saw Fang Mo. If he hadn't provoked him earlier, the argument wouldn't have escalated so fiercely. Sometimes he truly didn't understand what this guy was thinking. But the situation was urgent now, so he reluctantly said, "Right now, you and Stark are the only ones who can fly. Can you help repair the turbine group?" "Sure, but you have to do me a favor first," Fang Mo said. "What favor?" Nick Fury asked. You're at least a captain now. Fang Mo smiled and said, can you find a broom and perform a mid-air somersault trick for me? You don't want to help with the repairs. Nick Fury took a deep breath. If he ever died one day, it would definitely be from being infuriated by this guy. Anyway, I'm really busy right now. If you don't have anything important to do, just go play with the broom by yourself. I have plenty of other things to take care of. Before he could finish his sentence, a sudden loud bang resounded, and the entire helicarrier tilted, causing objects to fall to one side. What's happening? Nick Fury shouted, gripping the control console. Another turbine is damaged. Amidst the chaos, someone shouted, all engines on the left side of the carrier are damaged, Director. The helicarrier is going to crash. Oh, damn it! Nick Fury yelled. Haven't we captured the enemy yet? Everyone, prepare for emergency evacuation. But before he could finish his sentence, a hand suddenly landed on his shoulder. Nick turned his head and saw Fang Mo. It's worth mentioning that Fang Mo wasn't holding on to anything at the moment, yet his feet stood firmly on the tilted floor, unaffected. Do you believe in gravity? Fang Mo asked with a smile. What are you trying to say? Nick Fury yelled, gripping the control console tightly. It's not the time to play around. Didn't you always say that magic is all-powerful? Quickly use your invincible magic and find a solution. Fang Mo remained silent. He simply made a slow lifting gesture with his hand. The next second, the entire helicarrier abruptly shook. CO Commander. A special agent operating the carrier looked up in astonishment. Chapter 68, Chapter 67. 400 Power Stone. Double chapters today. Thank you everyone. Fang Mo has always been curious about the limits of the Void Ring. Finally, he has come to realize that even after lifting half of the helicarrier, the ring still possesses additional power. Although Fang Mo is uncertain about the exact weight he is carrying, comparing it to the estimated scale of the helicarrier confirms his initial assumption. The Void Ring exhibits an exceptionally high output power, comparable to Nagato's fully controlled 6 paths of pain. Fang Mo's only regret is his limited control precision over the gravitational field. Having read numerous novels in his previous life featuring characters capable of manipulating gravity in extraordinary ways, such as penetrating objects with a needle or distorting space-time with their bare hands using minimal force, he finds the reality far from those depictions. These feats are not entirely impossible in theory, but they demand an extremely high level of precision. To put it simply, it's like expecting a giant to grip a needle with just their fingertips and exert their full strength upon it. In theory, if achieved, the power of the needle would be unstoppable, capable of penetrating anything and causing widespread destruction. However, in reality, giants have acknowledged their inability to accomplish such a task. Even without cheats or tricks, humans themselves cannot hold a needle with their fingers and exert maximum force on it. Claims suggesting otherwise would simply be baseless arguments. The accuracy and magnitude of power are two distinct attributes. For instance, let's consider water as an example. Exemplifying precision, manipulating the microscopic world, altering van der Waals forces, and infinitely compressing molecular spacing. Even a minute quantity of profound heavy water could obliterate everything in the world. On the other hand, the magnitude of power signifies catastrophe, a calamity of incomprehensible proportions. If someone were capable of simultaneously manipulating 1.386 times 1012 tons of water on Earth, civilization as we know it would cease to exist. Undoubtedly, the Void Ring worn by Fang Mo aligns with the second path. Its sheer strength is truly astonishing, comparable to Pain's ability to move the Hidden Leaf Village single-handedly using the 6 paths of Pain. The Void Ring possesses a power of similar magnitude. Unlike the Rinnegan, the Void Ring doesn't rely on mana for operation. Additionally, by absorbing the Ender Hand force field, the power and magnitude of the Void Ring can be further enhanced. Fang Mo even wonders if feeding it with thousands of Ender Hands would enable him to tear apart a planet's surface with his bare hands, unleashing a cataclysmic explosion on Par with the 6 paths. However, those are discussions for another time. It's too early to delve into these matters now. In short, with Fang Mo's assistance, the helicarrier managed to avoid its impending crash. Tony Stark captured Hawkeye, who had been under enemy control and attacking the helicarrier. Fang Mo isn't sure if this is due to the butterfly effect, but Hawkeye didn't go to support Gamera as in the original story. Instead, he caused continuous damage around the helicarrier. Consequently, the aircraft suffered damage to 2 engine turbine sets, rather than just one as in the original narrative. As for Hulk, he caused quite a commotion and even threw Thor out of the aircraft. Fortunately, Natasha remembered Fang Mo's advice and promptly explained Hulk's current situation to everyone. Apart from a few superheroes, the rest on the aircraft are spies and agents with acting expertise. Therefore, Hulk quickly calmed down under the collective cooperation of these experienced actors. While basking in the applause and compliments, he indulged in fruits and soon fell asleep, reverting back to Dr. Banner. Meanwhile, Natasha and Captain America interrogated Hawkeye and discovered that he seemed to have regained consciousness. Concerned about Fang Mo's endurance, Tony Stark busied himself repairing the engine turbine outside. It took about half an hour, but he managed to get it running again. And then there was Nick Fury. He constantly pestered Fang Mo. Indeed, Fang Mo's earlier feat of lifting the helicarrier was quite extraordinary. Nick Fury, along with all the agents in the control room, witnessed the scene. It was evident that this surpassed the capabilities of ordinary superheroes, right? After all, no matter how powerful superheroes may be, they are still just exceptional individuals. Fang Mo, on the other hand, is different. The power he demonstrated earlier was akin to a legendary miracle. So, how did you accomplish that? Even Nick Fury, with his experience and knowledge, was astounded by Fang Mo's feat and kept questioning him. How about you show us an aerial somersault as a demonstration? Just explain what happened earlier. Were you concealing your true power all along? Or did you secretly draw a bunch of magic circles on this warship? Are you frightened by this level of power? Fang Mo glanced at Nick Fury, unable to resist mocking. If I were to create a moon with my bare hands, wouldn't it make you literally soil your pants? Create a moon with your bare hands. Nick Fury was momentarily taken aback, then hesitated and asked, You can actually do something like that? I already mentioned before. If I wanted to destroy this world, it would only take a few minutes. Facing Nick Fury's doubts, Fang Mo didn't disclose anything and simply smiled meaningfully. I have a flexible moral compass, so it would be wise for you to advise those people in Congress to behave and not throw everything into New York. Otherwise, if they manage to provoke me, I'll consider Tenstsuze as an appropriate return gift. What are you predicting now? And what is Tenstsuze? Nick Fury furrowed his brows, seemingly lost in thought. However, in the next moment, as if suddenly realizing something, he raised his head abruptly and exclaimed, Wait, are you saying that the aliens will invade starting from New York? Are those foolish senators planning to drop a nuclear bomb? Just as if to confirm his speculation, the command room door swung open with a bang, and Natasha entered directly, followed by Hawkeye, Barton. Director, Dr. Banner's search program yielded results. The Tesseract is in New York. Chapter 69, Chapter 68. Indeed, it has been proven that the search program created by Dr. Banner is highly effective. Soon, everyone learned about the whereabouts of the Tesseract, which, just like in the original, was located at Stark Tower in New York. The problem is that the helicarrier's travel speed is too slow, but there's nothing that can be done about it. After all, it has just suffered an attack, and the engine's power is several notches lower than before. It's already impressive that it can still fly. The impatient Avengers team, after discussing, immediately boarded the small fighter jets and flew towards New York in advance. Of course, there was someone even more anxious among them. That would be none other than the owner of Stark Tower, Tony Stark. He didn't even want to ride in a small fighter jet. Instead, he directly put on his Iron Man suit and flew towards New York. But Nebula is different from someone like Loki. At this point in time, she is the kind of person who can do anything for the mission. After Tony Stark flew back to the tower, he intended to prevent the opening of the wormhole in advance. He was in conversation with Dr. Savage when Nebula, without saying a word, directly attacked from behind with a knife. Thankfully, Tony Stark had eaten a golden apple, which greatly improved his physical abilities, allowing him to narrowly dodge this deadly attack. While Iron Man was confronting Nebula, a blue beam suddenly shot up into the sky. The deep blue energy slowly diffused in midair, followed by a rapidly expanding enormous void reflecting the cosmic space. Countless armored Chitauri soldiers poured out of their aircraft and madly spread outwards. They didn't even engage in direct combat with Tony Stark. Instead, they immediately began expanding in New York, indiscriminately attacking everything in front of them. A futile resistance, said Nebula, standing at the top of the tower, observing Iron Man's actions. Soon, a spacecraft docked beside her, and she mounted it effortlessly. Since that's the case, I'll kill you first. After saying that, she charged straight at Tony. Of course, Tony noticed Nebula, and he fired a repulsor blast with his hand. However, Nebula had the Mind Stone in her possession, and she directly shot an energy beam back, deflecting Stark's repulsor blast. With a loud boom, he was thrown into the air, flipping over. Kill him, Nebula pointed her staff at Tony. Chitauri soldiers immediately focused their fire on him, shooting energy projectiles relentlessly. However, at that moment, thunderclouds appeared in the sky, and lightning struck one of the Chitauri soldiers, jumping from one to another. In an instant, more than a dozen aircraft exploded into fireworks in mid-air. Thor flew out from the clouds, grabbing Tony, who was losing balance in mid-air. I thought the Hulk sent you back to Asgard. Tony said, relieved to see Thor, as he took care of two Chitauri aircraft with a wave of his hand. No one told me that the big green guy was on our side, Thor said, still with a few bruises on his face. He seemed displeased. I thought he was with Gamera. Blame Nick for that, Tony Stark said, adjusting his balance and immediately jetting out two long tail flames from his feet, rushing towards the Chitauri alien fleet. Thor followed suit, summoning thunder to deal with a large number of aircraft. However, in the next second, a huge shadow suddenly appeared in the teleportation gate in mid-air, followed by a massive creature resembling a whale flying out from it. Thor immediately swung his hammer upon seeing this, but a spacecraft suddenly charged at him. Nebula jumped high from the spacecraft, holding her mind scepter, and stabbed directly at Thor's chest. Watch out for that scepter! Tony quickly shouted. Fortunately Thor didn't act recklessly this time. He quickly blocked with Mjolnir and then kicked Nebula away. However, in that momentary delay, two more of those giant floating creatures emerged from the teleportation gate. These three monsters flew in different directions, and their metallic decks opened layer by layer, with countless Chitauri soldiers jumping down, recklessly attacking ordinary civilians on the streets. Damn it! Tony, seeing the situation, became anxious and quickly rushed down to deal with these soldiers. But before he could reach the scene, a hail of bullets rained down, directly shredding a large number of Chitauri soldiers. Soon, the sound of engines roared, and Stark looked up to see a fighter jet flying from a distance. It was evident that the other members of the Avengers had also arrived. However, before he could breathe a sigh of relief, a beam of blue light suddenly hit the left wing of the jet. Nebula, piloting a spacecraft, flew in an arc in mid-air, holding her mind scepter and coldly observing everything happening below. You damn alien bald woman! Upon witnessing this scene, Tony immediately cursed, and he was about to catch up with her to engage in combat. However, someone angrier than him quickly appeared. Hulk is the boss! Accompanied by a deafening roar, the top of the jet was torn open violently, and the green giant leaped out, grabbing the spacecraft driven by Nebula. Look at you, in that disgusting color! Upon seeing Hulk's green skin, Nebula instantly thought of her sister Gamera. She smirked and raised her mind scepter, saying, since that's the case, you'll also follow her example and serve me. But before Nebula could utter the final force in her sentence, Hulk suddenly roared in anger. Then, he swung his arm in a wide arc and delivered a powerful punch to Nebula. You are too ugly. Although Nebula had been modified by Thanos into a half-mechanical being, it was clear that she couldn't withstand the full force of Hulk's blow, especially with the dual damage to her mind and body. So when Hulk landed that powerful punch, not only did Nebula get hit, but her spacecraft also exploded along with her. With a loud bang, a ball of fire appeared in the sky, and Nebula, twisted and smoking, fell from mid-air. However, despite Nebula being knocked away, the Chitauri soldiers did not give up. Hulk looked up and saw the Leviathan warship not far away. He excitedly roared and immediately rushed over, smashing it into the ground with 3 punches and 2 kicks. The other members of the Avengers also quickly regrouped. This scale. Captain America furrowed his brows, looking up at the Chitauri army wreaking havoc in the sky. This could no longer be considered a small-scale battle, it was a full-blown war. He didn't know if their side could resist this alien army, but for now, they had to take it step by step. Captain, give the order. Natasha also realized the seriousness of the situation and reminded him. All right, I got it. Captain America looked at the teleportation gate in the sky and immediately began assigning tasks. In any case, before the gate can be closed, we must do everything we can to delay them. Barton, I need you to observe their movements from a high point. Tony, you're in charge of controlling the defense line here. If any of them run more than 3 blocks away, either eliminate them or find a way to drive them back with firepower. Thor, your combat power is strong. I need you to go near the teleportation gate and use your hammer, lightning, or whatever else to impede the invasion of these aliens. As for me and Natasha, we'll stay on the ground and find a way to attract those aliens without aircraft, ensuring they don't attack civilians. Captain America said this, then turned his head. Where did Fang Mo go? Chapter 70, Chapter 69. Captain America exclaimed, where did Fang Mo go? Upon hearing Captain America's question, everyone paused for a moment. After looking around, they realized that Fang Mo was nowhere to be found. Tony couldn't believe it and flew into the air to take a look, but he couldn't spot Fang Mo. Reluctantly, Tony said, well, Fang Mo is indeed missing, and he didn't bring his wireless earpiece. At the moment, we have no way to contact him. How can he wander around at such a critical moment? Captain America's anxiety was visible. After all, Fang Mo had demonstrated extraordinary combat power before, and his participation in this battle could have alleviated a lot of pressure. He must have his own ideas, Thor immediately explained for Fang Mo. He is the bravest Midgardian warrior I've ever seen. I mean, sorcerer. Even if all of us joined forces, we might not be a match for him. I guess he might have gone alone to find a way to close the teleportation gate. I think so too, chimed in Tony. Although this guy is usually infuriating, now. I suppose he's sneaking around, carving magic runes in the sewers, preparing to surprise us later. All right, Captain America agreed. Then let's split up and take action for now. Soon, the Avengers team officially engaged in battle with the Chitauri aliens. Hulk and Thor became the main force, with Stark in charge of maneuvering and providing firepower support. The team coordinated continuously, managing to temporarily hold back the Chitauri forces and prevent them from expanding into other neighborhoods. Meanwhile, Fang Mo, the god of war, was searching for the Avengers team that had traveled back from the timeline of Avengers Endgame. In the original storyline, Thanos snapped his fingers in Avengers Infinity War, wiping out half of the universe's population. Then, in Avengers Endgame, the team decided to travel back in time to collect the Infinity Stones and reverse the tragedy. However, Fang Mo had been searching for a long time but hadn't found the Avengers team that had returned from time travel. There really isn't. After an unsuccessful search, Fang Mo stood on top of a building, lost in thought. Could it be that because I killed Thanos in advance, the plot of Avengers Endgame disappeared? Fang Mo didn't mind changing the plot, he just wanted to have some fun, especially considering that he didn't particularly like the plot of Avengers Endgame. The original storyline had been quite unfortunate for Hulk and Thor. Natasha and Tony, two of the original Avengers, died, with one falling off Vormir and the other turning into charred remains from the energy of the Infinity Stones. Fang Mo couldn't fathom such a brain-damaged plot remaining untouched. With these thoughts in mind, Fang Mo shook his head and flew directly towards the battlefield. However, when he passed through Bleecker Street, a person standing on the rooftop caught his attention. The person was wearing a yellow robe, had a bald head, and was standing on a platform on the rooftop, rubbing a magic rune. In the next second, the person threw the magic rune in their hand, and it cut a passing Chitauri aircraft in half like a circular saw, creating a burst of fireworks in the air. This is... Fang Mo instantly recognized the location as 177A Bleecker Street in Manhattan, the New York sanctum from Doctor Strange. Usually, this place is surrounded by a magical barrier, unnoticed and inaccessible to ordinary people. However, since the Chitauri beings are semi-mechanical, magic has limited interference on them, and occasionally a few aircraft attempt to destroy this place. And at this time, someone was leisurely protecting the sanctum from the rooftop. It was none other than the Supreme Sorcerer, the Ancient One. Fang Mo stared at the bald-headed figure below and pondered for a moment. Then, he slowly descended. The Ancient One, as if having a premonition, looked up directly at Fang Mo. Currently, all 3 Infinity Stones are in New York. You indeed know how to seize opportunities. Well, it seems that you do know about these things. Fang Mo landed on the ground. So, would you mind answering my questions and enlightening me? The Ancient One didn't speak but instead brought her hands together. Instantly, the entire world seemed to be veiled, and the fleeing humans on the streets and the Chitauri soldiers in the sky disappeared. The chaotic and noisy sounds transformed into an eerie silence. Fang Mo naturally noticed the changes around him. It was evident that this was one of the most practical spells of the Ancient One, the Mirror Dimension. So, are we going to fight now? Fang Mo couldn't help but feel eager to try. However, to Fang Mo's surprise, after the Ancient One opened the Mirror Dimension, she didn't assume a combat stance. Instead, she walked over to a nearby table and chairs and sat down. Sit down and let's chat. What would you like to drink? Fang Mo was also stunned by the Ancient One's inexplicable attitude. But as they say, never hit a smiling person. Since the Ancient One had shown such a demeanor, Fang Mo couldn't bring himself to attack her right away. So he went along and sat down. Is it only red tea available? Fang Mo asked. The Ancient One produced a teapot from somewhere and started pouring tea. I know your purpose. The Ancient One slowly poured a cup of tea for Fang Mo. I've seen glimpses of your future. You've bullied Strange quite a bit for the Time Stone. He's a grown man, but you've managed to make him cry several times. Hey! Fang Mo was momentarily surprised. But soon, he understood what the Ancient One meant. Yes, he did have the intention of collecting the Infinity Stones now. After all, they were like wish-granting devices, similar to Dragon Balls. Fang Mo had some ideas he wanted to try. However, considering Strange's stubborn personality in the original story, Fang Mo estimated that he wouldn't easily hand over the Time Stone. If it were someone else, Fang Mo would just go ahead and snatch it. But Strange, this guy would always create a time loop at the slightest provocation and negotiate with you over and over again. Who could bear that? He deserves it, Fang Mo said after understanding everything. If you can't bear to see him suffer, why not lend me the Time Stone for 2 days? I promise not to destroy the world. And if I say no? The Ancient One asked. Then let me touch it. Fang Mo spread his hands, using threats and temptations. But if you don't even allow me to touch it, then I can only let you experience something you don't want to experience. The Ancient One leisurely took a sip of tea and then set down the teacup. I can negotiate conditions.
Thanks for listening.